You think you're so funny, Cap. Think you're so funny. An absolute hilarious, an absolute comedian with the gay FL. Absolute fucking comedian, aren't you? Hi. You're the funniest? All right. Okay. So are we gonna forever have you as the funny one of the group? I'm gonna pin that for like the next 20 minutes, and we'll wait and see if someone agrees with the message. They have no idea. Like maybe they do have an idea who you are. Have you been streaming recently? Let's see. Have they been streaming recently? Let me have a look. Shout out. Let's see what happens. Oh shit, they have been. I've never streamed on Twitch. It says you streamed Final Fantasy 14. Hang on. Give me a mo. You got one follower though. Hey, you just got one follower. I just love how it says about Capricious. Capricious streams Final Fantasy 14 online. Like, oh, it was last year that you streamed Final Fantasy 14. It's been at least a year since that. Oofies. You gotta get back on it. Also, do not play YouTube Shorts, please. So yeah, yep. I need to stream again though, for real, for reals. I get what you mean. I do my best to stream how I can because, you know, if I wasn't streaming, I'd very much. What the hell? You killed me in the intro fighters. Let me get my, hang on, emote. Gun. Bam. Boom. There we go. Now I'm back in the fight. Hi there, Sir Dragon! Oh my god, that's a fun little thingy. Oh, and... Xerix Jaeger. Hopefully I'm saying Xerix Jaeger correctly. Hi, welcome. I love Sir Dragon's emote. Let's see. Darken Tiger. I recognize that streamer. I think I followed them. Xerix Jaeger? Yeah! Because, like, here's the thing. I feel like when it comes to channel names and such like that, I don't know what it is about, like, you might not be a furry, but I feel like if you're online and you have, like, a persona or something like that, you have two, like, avenues for worthwhile naming schemes. You either do the two-name thing, such as GrantZeebs, Scribbly Noodle. Some people like try and go even further, like Blue Foxy Nicey Icy. No, Blue Foxy Nicey Ice. Yeah, they do four things or something or other. And then there are some people like Cap over here. She has the Hang on. Is it? Because I fucked up on this kind of thing. Yeah, okay. She has the name Capricious. Like there's a nest to it. There's a nest to it, like Mutasaur, Zephora. Like it's like Madonna kind of naming scheme. None of this like, oh, that there is Ringo's Star. Like, could you imagine a furry named Ringo? Actually, hang on a second. Someone give me a first name. Balenciaga. Balenciaga just feels pretentious. Well, give me a first name. Ringo Starr does sound like a first name. If I type in Ringo Starr furry, let's see. We got people that are like, oh, doing the bowl cut for their furry by the looks of it.
Hello.
I read you my favorite picture of Ringo Starr, but ... but with my persona instead. Amazing. 10 out of 10. Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney as furries. That's pretty funny. Mick Jagger. Nah, Mick Jagger I feel like that's not a furry name. Hi there, Alistair. Thank you. I worked really hard. I didn't work hard at all. I'm gonna be real with you. Sir Dragon. Yeah, Sir Dragon's is a pretty decent name. Ringo Starr sounds like I already read that. I need other names. Hang on a second. Wonder if Hang on. What the what? Alright, I'm gonna... actually, I'll jump into this one. Hello?
Hey, it's me, Ringo Starr. Probably not Ringo Starr. I haven't
Is
listened
that-
to the Beatles in fucking 50
Is that your, what's a mahoozy? Your, So why
Fucking
is it...
beautiful voice.
Why are you so low for me? Is my microphone just
Hold on.
not doing a...
It's my funny Beatle voice.
There we
Is that
go.
better?
Funny.
Anyways, what's good, chap? It's the funny.
It's... Yeah, alright. Check the pinned message, peoples. Is she funny?
I'm the funny. It's me.
This is Cap. They haven't streamed in over a year, and they're like, "Oh, I should probably get back into it at some point." I want to hear people's thoughts. So, figured out what server to go to. I've not yet figured out what server to go to. I'm gonna be real with you because, like, there's still the logistics of what the fuck do I do with the guild that I made back on Materia, where technically I'm the only one like regularly coming online. But Code is coming back into Final Fantasy though, so that's gonna be something. And then
if I may put my hat in the ring, I'm on Primal, and you know, you could hop into Primal, and then we could do actual shit instead.
But then there's like all tons of other people's in Crystal.
I used to be in Crystal. The reason I'm not in Crystal is from Materia to Crystal.
Ah, okay.
Fucking new character in Crystal.
I'm not gonna make a new character in Crystal. So yeah, I've not yet decided on like whether I would move to one of the North American servers. Also, that's the other thing is even if I move into Crystal or something like that, because there's multiple thingamadiggies in North America, it's like even Crystal peeps can visit Primal peeps, which is incredible. So, and you still have the same restrictions where it's like, oh, you can't add you can't add people from entirely different worlds or what have you into your guild or what have you, and that's the same with data centers and what have you. So,
I still got something stuck in my throat.
No, fair enough. So yeah,
God is killing me for being too funny.
Being too funny, death. Alrighty. What is Jaeger saying? That is true, but they didn't say they're working on letting jump region data centers at some point, or was that false? I have not heard anything about that being a strong thing, quite frankly. I feel like if that was to be a thing, we would hear rumblings about, say, for example, Oceania and Japan, for instance, or sorry, Oceania and Asia, is it? Is that
yeah, because they'd be the closest.
Yeah, they would be technically the closest. I imagine they would do some sort of like thingamadiggy of like, oh, Oceania now has an opportunity to do like a thingamadiggy with them, and like we haven't heard anything about that. Like Oceania peeps are just stuck in Oceania, and the biggest issue is that the like with where we are right now, from what like in my experience, like after going through like a lot of we're now getting into ShadowBringers. My experience in North America was like, oh yeah, there's always like tank privilege happened once in a while, but I was dealing with like, 200 millisecond ping or something like that. It wasn't great.
Additionally, like in endgame content, you'll never get anyone like ever.
Yeah.
In Crystal. Also, hi, I'm here.
Oh wait, hang on. What? That's you?
Yeah.
I thought I had you as a friend already.
You have my you have CP on as a friend. You don't have Leo. Leo's an alt.
Oh, okay. I still have these ones that's like I should probably remove like the unable to retrieves. Alright. So if I go, oh my god, challenge.
I'm the unable to retrieve. I'd imagine I am.
One of these, maybe. Probably should, like, clear... Because I remember some of these were from my time in Primal. Like, because Savage and such, and I think I just never deleted them because I was like, oh, maybe I'll get them back again, but really, probably not. Like, if I ever do go to, like, the North America, then maybe the names will come back, but I think, nah.
Also, that Road to 80 bonus, like, is something fucking different.
Oh yeah, when when they did the Road to 80 bonus when I first moved to Oceania, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But because I only play this game like maybe once a week, the Road to 80 bonus did not did not stick with me the entire time for the whole, oh yay, you're gonna like rush in with everyone else, so yeah. And
I still have my Road to 80, and I made this character like months ago.
really?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a... Hang on. While I'm doing the Googling, this is probably suffering for not being able to get to anyone for one of the few raids in EW, so I can progress the story, which is both in NA and Oceania servers. Yeah, and after going through Materia, like, I remember there was, like, a mad rush when I was first in Materia and such, because I think everyone was doing the move, but hearing from peeps like Velk and Geralt, where the side content, so the raiding, the trials, and all that, it's not really strong in Materia. Like, everyone here has just sort of rushed through the story, and now they're just like either waiting for an expansion or they've gone back to other worlds with alt accounts.
Additionally, if I can put my hat in the ring on this, even at like the end game, like patch content for Bloody Endwalker, I can't find jack shit people for a dungeon.
So yeah, because
let alone a trial or a raid.
Yeah, I've been running into that issue a few times on stream through the main quest line. Like, that's happened a few times. Even when I have like Velk with me, who is like a mentor and is doing like, because I'm playing tank all the time. I'm not playing as a DPS or anything like that. And they'll be like a healer or something. So it's like, we're already 50% of the way there. Like, it shouldn't take forever. But we'll queue up for something that is on the main quest line, and sometimes it won't go on for like 15, 30 minutes, in which case we get out, start a party finder, and then the party finder gets done in like maybe 10 minutes. So, but it's like, my good, like, for example, it's like I won't be able to do like Void Arc. I've waited forever and I can't do Void Arc. Meanwhile, like, they say to ignore Omega completely, and then this hyperconductive relic weapon thing is probably not going to be worked on and such. And nothing about this server makes me think it's empty. Like, let's head to Limsa Lominsa for a second. The Bulwark Hall. A friend who just finished the raid story, but my boyfriend wants to run through it as well, but bring me along as well. Mind if I join y'all? Do you have a person in Materia? I'm gonna be real with you. I had a look ahead at the ShadowBringers quest line. We're not gonna hit a dungeon for a while.
Yeah. Like at the start of ShadowBringers, it's mainly just doing quests.
Yeah, it's just running from one thing to the other. So it's gonna be a case of maybe grabbing a few peeps and waiting for Void Arc to go off, because Void Arc is always on my fucking wondrous tales. I can actually do some of these like solo now.
I think I'm gonna bloody just speedrun through the MSQ on this character.
No, fair enough. Like, so...
Hello!
Look at everyone here. Hi there, YY. Nope, all you got is Crystal. Well, I'm not on Crystal. I'm on Ravana. I'm on the Oceanas. Like, look around. There are people here.
I had a whole gang, a posse, if you will. You wanna know what we call ourselves? We call ourselves the Crystal Cronies.
Crystal Cronies, nice. Actually, I wonder, who is the MyGov still here? Oh, I remember, like, when I first joined on here, somewhat, like, there was a group called MyGov. It was fantastic. Some of them had, like, funny names, like Centerlink and such. All right, so we got
I remember there was a crafter gatherer main who was called Bunnings Warehouse.
That's fantastic. TS Gold.
Like Viera, I think.
Knights of the Republic, I think, is KOTOR. Bok. Yeah, I don't. That's unfortunate, because MyGov was such a like Seed and such is like just international Final Fantasy. There's nothing much about it.
Why 9,945 demands you drink?
Imagine if like the Australian government had to like come in and go like, don't use that shit like that.
You don't think they would have, would they?
I mean, it's the feds. I wouldn't put past him.
Okay, hang on. Let me head back into Limsa. But yeah, like, I would have to figure out what I would need to do. I meant, like, can I join your VC? Oh. No. Cap is one of them peeps I've actually, like, hung out and communicated with outside of a streaming environment. So, they get the treatment.
He let me in because I'm funny.
Are you though? Is she funny, chat? Hang on a second. I can do a poll. Is dun. This is why I need a moderator, so then that way they can just do these things for me. Is Cap funny? Yeah. Nah. 5 minutes. And you need to put in 100 gains if you want to be able to do another vote. Figured out as you all are in the public stream. Oh. Oh yeah, because I didn't... Hang on a second. Oh, Jesus.
What are we doing in here?
What are we doing here? Let's go dink. Bam. Because, like... Cap?
Yeah.
Oh, weirdly enough... Oh, hang on a second. I think I know what happened. So if I go into here... And then I move into here. There we go. Now it's good. Your little icon, like, disappeared because I dragged myself into another room rather than, like, stepped in.
I went to the void.
Yeah. Okay.
Fun.
Where do I go for Gunbreaker?
You go to the shroud.
Okay. So... Is it at least in Oh, yeah, it is in Gridania. Thank you, Alistair. Alrighty, who am I going to? I am going to...
Andrew gets to meet a hot fucking wolf boy.
Gridania, zonk. I'm not broke, but if I can just save money where I can, I will be happy. Gunbreaker is my favorite tank to main. Hey, that sounds pretty cool. So yeah, I'm thinking of going the Gunbreaker because that, like... Warrior was like, you know, the one I went for in A Realm Reborn and for most of Heaven's Ward. And then I swapped to the Dark Knight for Heaven's Ward. And then I stuck to it for Stormblood. And now that we're going into Gunbreaker, a lot of people, Code will probably be very much happy for this. They're like, a lot of people probably wanted me to be Gunbreaker. But like one or two of the peeps who like know Gunbreaker and such are like, don't be Gunbreaker.
Hey,
So,
why the fuck is there a 10-minute wait on Hawk Manor? Hawk fucking Manor.
oh my goodness. All right, so is this the gun? Yeah, making of a Gunbreaker.
For this, I'm going with NPCs.
Oi, mate. Fancy making yourself useful? Listen close. A gang of highwaymen have been applying the treading round here these last few days, and we're trying to flush them out. They're slippery buggers, though, so we need all the help we can get. That's where you come in. We spotted them lurking in the bramble patch, and we're getting ready to spring our trap. All you have to do is call one on who strikes you as a bit shifty and raise the alarm. We'll take care of the rest. I probably swapped from, like, one accent to another. I was trying to do, like, you know the Cockney accent, or I think it's called, the British one?
Yeah. The one that Australian derives from.
Is that where the Australian one is? I thought it was like...
because Cockneys were highly discriminated against during the time in which the First Fleet came around to Australia.
Okay.
Well, not discriminated against, it's just they were povo. And povo makes for crimes.
Yeah, Povo makes for crime. Brilliant. So...
Is that not how it works?
Povo makes for crime. Maybe. I do like the idea of that Australians are just British people that are further down their tech tree.
Are we though? I've seen some pretty tech illiterate Australian people.
Tech tree as in, like, you know, maybe they enhance themselves through crime. Video game stuff.
Valid.
Yeah. Alright, so Alistair is a scholar. And then does all kinds of DPS. Jaeger is sticking with Sage. For DPS, they're Red Mage, Reaper, and they're working on their Machinist or... Is DNC Dragoon? Dancer, okay. Oh, that was neat. A lot of flashing lights. I realize now why Blue, like, several streams ago thought I was a Final Fantasy streamer at heart. Oi, out of me way, or I'll gut ya. It's because he put the 7TV emotes in, and so many of them are Final Fantasy icons and things like that, which is like probably did not help him in trying to actually you know, come to terms with the fact that I'm a variety streamer. I'm not meant to, like, I'm not playing Final Fantasy like every day. I'm doing it once a week at best. Oh, I gotta like stand in here. All right. Plunge.
And it comes out. I am funny.
3 people have voted for you for being funny. That's pretty good stats. There's like 2 people in chat right now and then yourself, so nice work. 100% funny. Good on you, Cap.
I've done it.
You've done it. You've broken through to the comedy. You've broken that glass ceiling.
I've done what Amy Schumer could never dream of doing.
Being funny. You have my thanks, stranger. And mine. If you hadn't shown up, things could have gone very badly for us. It's my fault. I'll be more careful next time. Hi there, Thorn. Truth be told, I thought we'd have an easier time of it on this side of the wall. How wrong I was. To think we could be caught unawares by a gang of common thieves. What's going on? We heard a commotion and... That's one of them! Just like the witness described. I'm trying to do a British accent and I'm failing terribly.
You need to go older. You need to make him a gilf. I can't believe we were.
Well, we're not there yet. Okay, so this is the God's Quiver's Bow. It's strange they go after a pair like you. All their marks are so far have been merchants and whatnot. You know, folks carrying coin and valuables who won't put up much of a fight. I reckon that if any of their cronies are out there watching, they'll think twice before crossing you lot again. Still, might be an idea for you to see these travelers to Gridania. Me and the others will keep looking for the rest of the highwaymen. And he does like a cool... That's a weirdy salute. I much rather prefer like the... Don't... like... Alright, you wanna do your Gilf accent right now for... Actually, you can't see...
I would, but stream lag.
Hang on a second. There isn't a stream lag. If I do it via... via Discord, I can do that. My internet connection is what the fuck? There's a clipping system in Discord?
Clippings? Oh shit, for real?
For real? Hang on, Discord clipping. How to clip in Discord? What? To enable, tap on user set. When did this start? This experimental feature is only available to a limited number of users and servers. Clips are only stored on your local machine. You control which clips you share on Discord. May already have clips enabled by default if their system has high-end hardware. Oh. Because I saw, like, the shortcut thingamajiggy appear in the overlay. And, yeah. Anyway, does the stream work for you?
Yep. Shall I do my magic?
Do your magic.
Those bandits. Something about this doesn't sit right with me. We barely have a fistful of gil between us, and I have a couple of forms of edged steel strapped to my back. Not the most likely of targets. Perhaps that's why they went straight for the kill, and they might have succeeded if you hadn't stepped in. We are in your debt. I am Radovan, and this is Sophie. We have traveled from Ilzabar, far to the north. where I once served as a soldier of Garlemald. Oh, terrible times. I fucking hate the Empire. I had no choice. My family was taken hostage. While it is true that I have fought and killed for the Empire, I would never have done so willingly.
There we go.
Although I have freed myself from their shackles, the life I'd known is no more. But that was another life. One I would sooner put behind me. I came to Eorzea in this hope that I would start anew.
I'm just giving like, yes, thinking noises.
Naruhodo.
As for me, I also escaped from the Gallians. I was part of a resistance movement until we were all rounded up, or killed, that is. The Empire took everything from me, my family, my homeland. With nowhere else to go, the two of us decided we stand a better chance of surviving if we stuck together. And here we are.
Isn't it funny that the girl is doing the guy voice and the guy's doing the girl voice?
It is a little bit funny. I'm doing my best.
To see me now, you'd scarce believe I once served as a personal guard to my queen. But in the end, I could not protect her. I couldn't protect anyone. Not even my own wife and son. You see, I am a DILF. While I would gladly have given my life for theirs, it was not to be. Even so, there may be still some use for the skills I spent years honing. Those whom they may yet deliver them from harm.
That's why I suggested looking for employment as a bodyguard in Eorzea, and Gridania seems a good place to start.
I know you've helped us enough already, but I have a proposal.
Ooh, a proposal.
Would you consider working with us?
We
don't have benefits because we're two people and we're fucking poor.
We're so poor. If there's anything I can do for you. Just trying to squeeze. Squeeze the bosom. Now hold on, Radovan. That's rather a lot to ask, don't you think?
But Grant has what it takes to become a gunbreaker.
I thought...
Did you know that we don't actually call them gunbreakers because they have guns? It's because the first one to use a gunblade was under the command of Queen Gunhilda, so it was shortened. It seems my gunblade has caught your eye. You may have seen Garleans wielding something similar, but this is the genuine article.
Hi, Mark.
Those used by the Empire are simply edged weapons with a firearm bolted on, or vice versa. While they have their uses, they pale in comparison to the ones that my clan has forged for generations.
Oh, I love the way you said generations there.
I went Armstrong with it.
Our gunblades use etherically imbued cartridges. When you pull the trigger, the powdered crystal within ignites, releasing the ether. It sends a powerful shockwave through the blade, increasing its destructive capabilities. The cartridges can be even fired into the air to create defensive barriers.
Nice. That explains why they're different to mechanicists. Perhaps you should save the lectures until you've heard Grant's answer.
Nonsense! It's a fucking gun sword! He wants it!
It's fucking cool! It's from Final Fantasy VIII! If you were a proper fan, you would appreciate the gunblade!
This is why I don't work with women often. They do not understand the swagness of the fucking gunblade.
It's a gun and a blade!
It is a gun and a sword! What else could you want in life?
Oh, next line.
Yeah.
In exchange for assisting us, I shall teach you the art of the gunbreaker.
And I was wondering if you might be able to act as a guide. Hi there, Avalon. Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there. Hey, hang on. It's just like... Hello there.
General Kenobi, you are bold.
If you would accept gunblade training as a form of payment, we'd be most grateful. Once the coin starts rolling in, you'll receive a fair share. What's up, Masonic?
I need a sip.
All right, no, fair enough. You're doing like the... I feel like I have the easy one. I feel like I can just be, oh, so lofty. I can just like, literally just go, lady voices, doing lady things.
Okay, hold on.
Here we go.
You need not answer right away, but please give it some thought.
We are doing A-OK, Avalon. All right, who else was there? Okay, so Alistair is going to beat up a boss. Masonic wanted to say that I'm sexy. Thank you. And then they tried to boop Avalon, but I don't have a boop command. All right. Bam. Have you
reached a decision?
Okay, so that's what you said. I wonder how I'd say. Have you reached a decision? I feel no.
Let me do the girl voice for this one.
Have you reached a decision? Do you wish to become a gunbreaker?
Of course.
From this day forth, our fates are entwined. While the path that lies ahead is not an easy one, the spirits of my predecessors will watch over you. Alright, so there's our gunblade. There's the high steel gunblade and an outsider's attire. Thank Christ they give me something. Okay, so I am at level 60, so it's really like 10 levels and then we're good. Bum. Alrighty, now I need to update my thingamadoogs. Alright, Yunk. Oh, why did I... God damn it, alright. Where is... There you are. And then... Recommended gear. I don't know if the artisan... Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't, Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. I was wondering why it was trying to give me, like, the outsider shit. And then I'll just use this as well, because scouting gear. Alright. Outsider circuit, gloves, chaps, boots. And then it gives me all the different, like, random thingy-madoogs. Alright. Gear list. A new gear list. And it's the gunbreaker. And then they're gonna put you here. And get rid of the blue mage. Just need to reorganize my things. There we go. You got your butt kit before I could go for the boss. Aw, that's unfortunate to hear. Look. Oh, look, I can steal his bone. Thank you, Avalon, for reminding me about that quote. Alright. I haven't done anything with the blue mage, which is hilarious. Oh! Oh, I can't apply glamour plates. Okay. Yep, so that's the thingy. Alright. This symbol indicates the defensive stance Royal Guard is in effect, which increases enmity.
Pull the lever.
No, don't pull the lever! God damn you. Performing a combo ending in Solid Barrel or Demon Slaughter adds cartridges to the power gauge, which are expanded by Burst Strike and Noshing Fang. Well, at least I'm starting at level 60, and okay, hang on. Where is it putting... Deliver a ranged attack with a... Okay, hang on. So, let me do... What the... What is... Delete... Why can't I... Oh my god, this thing is, like, all over the place. Alright, put you there. Get rid of the teleport. Alright, so... Wait, why can't I... There we go. I was so confused why I couldn't attack anything. And then it goes 3. Yeah, okay, so... The burst shell is 2. Solid is 3. Sorry, I'm just like setting up my 1, 2, 3 combo. And then this goes 4.
You know you can do that in the action menu, right?
Well, they were already there, so I'm like... And then... Alright. Yeah, these guys are going to be kind of weak. Oh, wait! Hang on. Okay, so... Keen Age goes into 1. Brutus Shell goes into 2. Solid Barrel goes into 3. Demon Slice will be 5. Slaughter will be 6. Slice will be 6. Let's see. Deliver a ranged attack. Okay, so that's going to be 4, because I think ranged is like the thingy-majiggy. Deliver a potency. So burst, I'm gonna put here. Hang on, I just need to... I kind of wish I could, like, copy... Also, why do they give me shirk? Like, it's... I could not care less about... Why would it...
For raids.
It's no... I would never care. Enmity.
Yeah, but sometimes in, like, the big raids and, like, the very tough raids, you have to, like, actually shirk off damage so you can switch to the off tank.
Gnashing... Okay, so Gnashing Fang is just basically a free attack. Burst is the same sort of thing. Oh wait, no, hang on. So Provoke... Cookie for Bookie! You're a tank. You need Shirk to transfer threat to another tank. That makes me sound weak as a tank, okay? Okay, so this does not share with a recast. Deliver a thingy. Alright, so it's...
not to main tank while you're around.
Sorry?
Remind me not to main tank when while you're the off tank.
No, because they fixed it. Like, because even if I have my enmity thingy-majiggy and they have their enmity thingy-majiggy, so long as they're doing the hits, they're the like, if they do the things first, they're their main tank, and then I'm just doing my thingy-majiggy. It's only when they die that it becomes a problem, but because I have my enmity turned on already, then it's not a problem. The game is very... Okay, it's not... Okay, so these are weapons... I don't have those unlocked. So, okay, so... Oh wait, no, I'm gonna swap Provoke, the Interject, and the Lobo are gonna go down down there. The... What the? Unassignable? Why are these unassignable? Delivers...
Probably because they have a, they're on one skill. But,
oh.
Like, with different conditions, they become different skills.
Radio. Okay, so roll. Ramparts is control 1. Reprisal is control 2. Then we go arm's length. Could not give a shit about thingy. What fun. Hi there, Hawaiian Pizza. Don't use tank stance. Could not care. Alright, so... Yeah, and then, let's see, Demon Slice and Demon Slaughter are my AoEs. Ha! Yep. Wait, why does... To all nearby, deliver... Add a cartridge to the... Alright, so... 5? Oh, it's like a pretty big... Okay. What's... Okay, so no mercy. Increases damage dealt by... Okay, so I'm gonna put you in 0. I'm gonna... Danger zone. Alright, what's camouflage? Increase parry rate by 50% while reducing damage take... Okay, so that's like a damage reduction thing. I'll figure out how to put my things. That just makes you a team player because a boss like Titana comes along and says, "This is the rhythm of the light," and obliterates you with a Kamehame. I have no clue what any of those scenarios are, Sashera.
Don't spoil fucking ShadowBringers in chat. God damn.
Oh, okay. Now that now that the gun break... Hang on, no.
You want me to do it?
No, I can do it. I can do the old man voice. I just need to... British old. The weather and tea is terrible. The British colonies. For creed and country. Now that the gunbreakers of Eld have yielded a portion of their wisdom, you are ready to take the blade in hand. Rather than spend moons and moons training you, perhaps we have best find employment first. We can use the time between assignments to refine your abilities. But where should we start? The Adventurers Guild. Yes, that seems quite promising. Do you want to do your best lady voice? Your best
I suppose we are adventurers after all.
Well, that's just your voice. I thought you would be like, you know, putting extra stuff to you.
Damn. Okay. I was trying my hardest to do a lady voice for them.
I'm sorry. I didn't
let me
mean
go
to.
more lady.
I thought that. I'm sorry.
I suppose we are late. Well, I suppose we are adventurers after all. Is that satisfying?
We'll go to the previous
with this
one.
sort
Go
of
to the
thing.
previous one. You had it right the first time.
The thing is, I can't get it back now. I forgot. It went off RAM. Tell me, Grant, are you familiar with this sort of thing?
No, it's like Simlish. It's like Hermitage. This is your line.
Yeah. Oh my. In that case, we couldn't have found a better guide.
Well, there's. Fuck. I'm not sticking to the.
Should we switch back?
Let's switch back. You stick to the old man. I'll stick to the young lady.
Well, there's no time like the present. Shall we?
You know I'm from Britain, right? No, Avalon. That is a half truth. You're from Scotland. I remember this. I've seen your character reference. You had the Scottish colours.
Scottish man, then. I think we could do a Scottish voice for a wee cat. Aye.
I am not responsible for Cap until Cap does something.
I could do a bit of racism. You know, a bit more of the hoity-toity-toy on it.
Scotland is in Great Britain. Okay. Great Britain is like the landmass, right? Is that how it is? Because then there's the United Kingdom, which has the thingy Great Britain, but then it also has, I want to say,
Careful with your words, careful with your words, careful with your words.
Wales? What's the separate landmass?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something in Irish because like
No,
that's how
look,
people bombed.
Look, the packet for the McDonald's hamburger up there explained it perfectly well, summing up the history. 100% English and Irish beef.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, because like I'm pretty, yeah, and also like how else could they have gotten like only the northern part if it wasn't like, you know, attached and shit. Like that's why I was like, there's like another thingy. There's an entirely different landmass. Avalon says they're this close. So I am internalizing so hard right now. Also, hi Ripper.
All of England Albion, or you know, whatever the big fucking island is called.
Albion.
Yeah, it's what the Anglos called it.
Yeah. Also, Albion is in Australia as well. There's a suburb in Brisbane called Albion.
That's stupid. I like it.
It is stupid, but let's be real. Like, there's an entire state that's just called Wales, but it's new and it's in the south.
South.
Yes. All right. Where am I going next? Hired Gunblades. Oh, I'm just heading back to Gridania. Okay. You've missed every opportunity to get first this week. Good. It means you've been like having a nap and getting your 6 hours minimum of sleep. So yeah. Oh, actually, you know what this means? I can swap my glamour plates. I can go for... Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Ooh. Oh. Oh, yes. All right. That is... Hang on a second.
Go suck a lemon.
You go suck a lemon, furry cures. I am going to assign number 18. Look at... Like, this just screams, like, Gunbreaker Edge. Like, look at this man. The only way I would improve on this is just...
Let's be real.
Let's be real, what?
Dark Knight edgier.
I had to swap over to my chest because Alistair redeemed for the himbo cam. I heard the sound effect of the booby noise, and I was just like, okay, I need to move
Now
over to
that
boobies.
is what we call a skill issue.
Yeah, I've changed the thing. Instead of being like just the clown honka honka, I've now like. Have you seen
Zeebs is a cutie.
Miss Kobayashi's maid dragon?
Not in a long while, but yes.
All right, so there is a sound effect that goes along with the big tittied dragon, not the maid big titty, like the actual big titties, and it's just that sound. It's just that like bubbly noise. Hang on a second, I need to move Avalon. I need to move Avalon into the private streaming thingamadoogies. I have to move my squat trainer.
Hello.
Hello.
Huh? What's that, Sonny?
Oh my goodness, it's
What are
a...
you talking about?
Oh no.
Can you say that again? Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. Alright, excellent.
Listen, it's early in the morning. I haven't had my cup of coffee, so I'm full on Scottish right now.
Oh, could you please voice Radovan here, please?
Oh no.
Oh, that's such a good idea. Do it.
Do it.
Okay. Now that Mother Mion has made us formal members of the Adventurers Guild, we can start accepting assignments.
It works. It works so well.
In fact, we've already been given the details of a potential client in need of a bodyguard or two.
A man named Lessenshow is waiting by the Wailing Barracks. Sophie and I will try making our own way there to get our bearings.
God, this is so cool!
Finally, I'm useful. My voice is useful.
Yeah! Oh, it's been so long since hang on a second, I need to now emote in kind. Would you like some help in the Watsamahusi dungeon?
Oh no,
Cap?
I've already done it.
You've already done it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just running
I
through
go back from
quests?
Ophelia, and I just wanted to come here and just bully you.
Alrighty then, fair enough. New Gridem. Alright. Oh my god, this is so great! Also, what did Sashera say in the chat? Most bosses in the game will outright ignore your status as a tank because they have a move called a Tank Buster that will flatten you like a pancake. Sashera, I don't think you understand. Like, I've had to try being a good main tank back when I was in North America with the huge ping and what have you. There have been times here, like in Materia, where I've had to do the tanking thing, and I've had Velk in the VC when we're doing like a dungeon or something like that. Just have this moment of when we're dealing with like either any of the mini bosses or some sort of like just doing the AC pull or whatever, and he's just sort of like, do you just have like instinct to like do one of the moves or something rather? And it's like, nope. This is just an inherent talent that every Australian, I think, gets when they do good in games, even with the ping. They soon develop this preemptive sense based off of like just the animation and shit.
Honestly, I think it's very telling that Grant used to be a warrior main. You can't shake it off.
I'm just like, phew, so great. Getting my ass kicked in all sorts of video games. I think Shirk is an excellent
That is a
tool.
warrior main. Warrior mains only know Unga Bunga.
Exactly.
So, because it's so great. Like, and if you do your combo, you self-heal. It's fantastic. I regularly forget that the other like tank classes have something similar, but it normally requires, you know, you press another button before you do.
You know what's crazy? It gets better in Endwalker and ShadowBringers.
Oh.
It really does, yeah.
Alrighty.
Becky,
You can
Rum
shake
smash.
it off and like other shit, like Bloodwedding. Bloodwedding is so fucking good.
Alright, you, hang on. Oi there, governor. Yeah, no, hang on. No, he's not that. He's just, he's like a, he's like, he's not an
It's
Esche.
an elf, so it's French. So it's like, you must be the one sent by the Adventurers Guild? Yes.
Monsieur, mon ami.
Thank goodness, something dreadful has befallen.
Sir, I saw you, but I saw you blinking in Morse code. Oh, it is. Are you blinking because your what? Because your data's a fake? Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
You must be the one sent by the Adventurers Guild, yes? Okay, I think I got this. All right. You must be the one sent by the Adventurers Guild, yes? Ah, thank goodness. Something dreadful has befallen, well, threatens to befall, the one and only Editha. You mean to say you are unfamiliar with the most gifted hopsicordist who ever lived? Whatever possessed me to hire such an uncultured... It appears my breath would be better spent briefing you on the nature of my request. A few days ago, Ether received a most unwelcome missive, a death threat to be precise. At first, I deemed it nothing more than the crazed scribblings of some harmful troll. That was until, during a recital, a stone was thrown at her, missing her by a hair's breadth. I have, in my capacity as her manager, cancelled all public appearances until the perpetrator can be brought to justice. I fear, though, that my delicate tulip would wither and fail if confined to her dressing room, and she has herself expressed a desire to stroll freely beneath the canopies of Mikato's amphitheater.
You've switched from French to like, you know the modern Major General from fucking Gilbert and Sullivan?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't know Gilbert and Sullivan.
You don't know Gilbert and Sullivan?
I don't know Gilbert and Sullivan.
I am the very modern Major General
Oh.
of information, animal, vegetable, mineral.
I don't know Gilbert and Sullivan, but that sounds like Morden, where he was like, I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. I know the beat.
Species, Chori, and Asari, and Materia. I'm quite good at genetics as a subset of biology, which I know is a tautology.
My xenoscience spans from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.
Wonderful.
So yeah, oh, it was so great. I was heartbroken when it's like he sacrifices himself, and it's like if you had a good relationship with him, he sings in his last moments, and I was just like, no. And it's annoying that it's like, oh, you basically have to be the biggest dick to keep Morden alive, and I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not gonna do that to the Krogan. All right. I see where this is going. You want us to take her for a walk, is that it? Avalon, this is your turn.
Oh, if that's all we have to do, we should count ourselves lucky. A threatening letter, brazen attack in a public place. Who knows what will happen next? But she can't stay indoors forever. I say we accept.
Splendid. Without
further ado.
Okay, you want to do it?
Prepare promenade.
I'm stuck with the girl again.
We'd best proceed carefully. If the culprit knows that Lassenshire has asked the Adventurers Guild for help, they can probably deduce that Editha will be coming out of hiding. We should see if anyone bears a grudge against her, so we know what to expect. And we'd better look around the amphitheater for places where an ambusher might hide.
Nice.
Love doing accents. It's great.
It's I remember like trying so hard to do like accents and such when going through A Realm Reborn and Walker. I'm going the right direction. I'm just taking the long way so I can go to the achievement place. Sorry, not Endwalker. Heaven's Ward. A Realm Reborn and Heaven's Ward. So it was fun. All right, do I get any new shit? You've accomplished enough. Yep. Cool. I've already got the head. I don't know the point of the ribbons.
Ribbon's cool. It's a headpiece, I think.
Yeah, alright, so I got the wind-up cursor. Gilgamesh, Nanimo. And dun. Flying Saffron. Behemoth. Barding of Light, Wild Rose. The Magitech Claw. Inquire Within. And then it's just that stuff. Okay, so nothing like proper new or fun yet.
And I love Inquire Within.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yes.
So So, also, can you actually like just shirk stuff to the Dragoon? Like, won't they
Yes.
just get pissed?
Anyone. You can shirk it off to anyone, and it's amazing.
Is it? I feel like it's a troll move.
Yes.
So,
Yes. The Dragoons deserve it.
They're the
simp,
floor tank, so. Listen, it's simp kin.
simp.
It's a whole kin.
That's a simp. Simp. Oh, Editha. Even a moment deprived of her supulous harmonies is akin to an eternity of an unimaginable torment. When, oh when, cookie for, Alistair. When, oh when will her grace me with her splendor once more? Hopefully I'm not, like, too loud in the Discord. Okay. Why, yes, Editha has been the talk of Gridania since her debut. Her skills as a musician is without question, though I sense that many of her admirers are more interested in her bizarre stage garb. Franquette. You of her, I certainly do. I would consider myself to be one of her many admirers. In all honesty, I do not care for the way some of the others oogle her. If the rumors about Editha received death threats are true, one of those leechish scoundrels must be behind it. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job with the French. Here we are.
Grant, have you met Miss Ondine? She's a harpsichordist, like Editha.
The poor girl! What is the world coming to? That's a gifted and beautiful young performer such as her must hide away for fear of her life. It beggars belief. It must be one of her followers. I've seen the way some of them look at her, and it makes my skin crawl. With fans like that, who needs enemies? Just like a cool bow.
So, what do the other locals have to say? Yes, most of them think that one of Editha's admirers is to blame, but I sense there's more to it. I think that until we have more information, we should treat everyone with equal suspicion, to be on the safe side. Personally, I'd prefer to carry out a more thorough investigation, but we'd best not keep our clients waiting. Once you are ready, let us return to Lesson Show.
You have learned all the Gunbreaker actions and traits to level 60. Detailed descriptions can be viewed in the actions and traits window. Nice. I think I already had them. Oh my gosh, it's... Oh wait, I can just use this thing. Donk. Jump. Jump. Lancer. There we go. Dun, dun. Zoom out. Is there an advertisement going off? I was warned about it, but nothing has happened. Yeah, it's,
You should be able to see it in creative view, I think.
yeah, it's saying ads starting soon, but it's not running. I'm a little hesitant of getting into a cut because they're like a minute and a half long is the thing. So I don't want to like run into it and be like, oh, whoopsies, you're missing out on some great accent play here. All right, so
If I hit level 50
Chat has
tonight,
come
I'm gonna
together
switch
and
to
thinks you should do 10 squats during the break.
all right, I got to do my. There's my squat. There's the advertisement. All right, now I got to do my 10 squats. Yeah. Big stretch. Ugh. Big stretch. Big stretch. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you for the 10 squats. Alrighty. I'm gonna pull up a map of the UK. Hang on a second.
Not this again.
Okay, so yeah, Ireland is
You're
the
stuck with
separate landmass, and then there's an Isle of Man between them.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a manly eye.
So, yes. There's also the Isle of Skye, which you'll never get to.
The Isle of what?
Skye. S-K-Y-E. And there's also Jersey, which is all the way over next to Netherlands.
Oh, it's all the way up there.
New Jersey.
Yeah. You got no, just Jersey.
Oh, hey, there's Kirkwall.
Yep.
Jesus.
Now you know Dragon Age is exceedingly British.
With, like, was BioWare British? I don't... Like...
They have the weird British in Dragon Age where they kind of have sibilating accents.
It's sort of Albionic in a way.
It is, yeah.
English or British.
It's definitely not received pronunciation, that's for sure.
Ferelden. No,
Then you've got
Canada,
Orlais.
French British.
Yes.
But yeah. I think, were they trying to make the Tevinter Empire, like, I feel like they were trying to make it a little bit Indian? Like, somewhere over in, somewhere either close to the Middle East or more towards, Europe, Asia.
Yeah, it's definitely got like Eastern aesthetic to it, even like the architecture for sure. I think it's like more Middle East than anything.
Okay. No, fair enough, fair enough. I can't wait for Dad, though, the Dread Wolf entry. That one I'm kind of, like, really giddy for. I wonder if we're going to be dicks and grab, what's Mahuzi? Why are you blanking on his name? He's Varric.
Oh, very.
Yeah, he, like, so much shit happened to him in the second one, and in the third one, like we're just, like, you know, twisting the knife a little bit more, and he becomes, spoiler alert for those who weren't aware, he's now, like, the What's-a-Mahuzi of Kirkwall, the,
Grand Duke or something like that?
No, he's, like, the actual, Vizier? No, not Vizier. Kirkwall government. No, not the legitimate Kirkwall, the Dragon Age one. Viscount, that's it.
Oh.
So he's now a Viscount, and, well, that's if you...
Viscount.
Yep.
So yeah, because it was like a possibility when you did the Trespasser DLC. But I'm gonna be real, I very much did want it to be Viscount. And you see, like, on one of the, like, the end card sketches or what have you, that if he is Viscount, he doesn't... he's very bored in his chair, but he has, Captain Evelyn beside him, so she's still alive. Someone from the original crew is, like, not a dick to him or ruining his life.
To be honest, he kind of deserves it. He's a grifter.
Okay, but, like, come on, like, his brother Bartrand goes insane, and like, you know, through like just normal dwarven, oh, we're trying to make a quick buck, almost starts like a full-on, like, religious genocide twice in Kirkwall. The first time because of the Qun, the second time because of the idol. And also, like, technically speaking, like, the first one with the Qun, that was also technically not his fault, that was Isabella's. Like, very much her fault. But then I think even if you did try and send her to the Qun, she would escape or something rather, and they would just be like, nah, you did a shit job, we're rioting anyway. So yeah, so you can't just be like, ah, yes, Varric, the Urza of Dragon Age.
He's kind of a sacrificial lamb, narratively speaking.
Yeah. So, and like, half the reason he's not, like, sacrificed in 2 or an Inquisition is because of his story writer marker.
Is it? I thought it was because he was narrating the whole thing.
Yeah, story writer, narrator.
Oh.
Like, that thing. Oh my gosh.
There's no.
The romance plot line with Cassandra. I loved it. She was like a fan of swords and shields, and she wanted like the next book or something like that. And she's like, you can't tell anyone about this, but please force Varric to finish this. And I'm like, you have my word. I instantly ran to Varric, and I was like, guess who's a fan of sword and shields?
Wow.
I absolutely, like, it's like that thing in Cloudy and Chance of Meatballs. You must not tell anyone about this, not even your closest friends and family. Sir, I won't tell a soul. Sam, I have something secret to tell you. So great. All right.
Did you know, Grammy?
Go suck a lemon.
I hate the pre-Titan quests in A Realm Reborn.
Oh, they're so bad.
I feel like most people wouldn't like the pre-Titan what's-mahoozies, to be real with you.
Have you heard of the song, though?
Questline, I literally just had to take like 2 Panadols.
Have you heard the lyrics to the Titan fight? It's literally gibberish.
Oh, so like Duel of the Fates.
No, it's like Titan.
No. That's exactly what Duel of the Fates is as well.
Is it?
There is. John Williams just wanted like a chorus. It didn't matter what they like. Hang on a sec. Duel of the Fates. John Williams.
It has lyrics.
I thought it had like a little bit of mock Latin.
So it goes, Cora Mata, Cora Ratama. It just repeats that. So, oh my gosh, hang on. It's just repeating that over and over again in like small, like different changes. It's so silly. Also, I need to adjust.
Have you done this line yet? Can I do it?
Yeah, hang on a second. I just need to adjust my thingy-madiggy because like the game is like loud, and I want you to be like, god damn it. Hang on, so this gets lowered down, but it still keeps to the same high value, so Discord should be better now. If you want to say a few things to confirm.
Among Us.
Amogus.
Among Us.
Alrighty, let's see, 100%. Final Fantasy will be 30. And then this will be 60. There we go. Alright. Should be good. Alright, now you can say the line.
This assures me that she will be ready in 2 shakes of ice. This is tail, whatever that means.
Ooh, that was good.
Nice. Here we go, here we go.
The trick about doing a French accent is to have disdain for everything.
Yep.
I was definitely trying to do that disdain for everything. Oh, okay. My chaperones have arrived! How wonderful! Oh my god, she's like a child.
Yep.
Okay, so hang on. Oh, he's so ugly. I love it. Oh.
I want to do Editha now.
Oh, to finally feel the sun's warming rays. I'm reborn. Actually, you can do Ida if you want, and I'll keep doing Sophie. They weren't joking when they called her eccentric.
What the fuck did you say to me, bitch?
Furry Cures 1221 paid me to say
All this
go
prancing
suck a
about is going to
stinky
draw
lemon.
unwanted attention. We'd better get this over with as quick as possible. Sophie, Grant and I will escort her to the amphitheater. Why don't you stay behind Velasquez show in case we need to hurry back?
Fine by... Also, you go suck a lemon, Furry Cures, and come up with some new lines. Fine by me. I'll keep an ear out for any signs of danger, and come running if you're call.
Although I was fully prepared to join you in getting this I even just for the occasion, I will defer your professional opinion and remain here. But promise me that you will keep my sweet Petunia la petite Salvador safe.
Leave it to us. Are you ready, Grant?
Mm-hmm.
We need to get you a button that just does the fucking Charlie Brown teacher noise.
Oh, what's the
Wow.
Charlie Brown teacher noise? What does that sound like?
A trumpet. Trombone, actually.
Oh, okay.
Wah, 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 wah.
Wah wah. La 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 la. What's up?
I did the line, but I
Oh,
can do it again.
yeah, you can do it again. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Oh, you're peeking out of your like the mic doesn't know how to pick up your high pitches from you.
The mic can't handle me.
Wait. Did I leave something running in the background, like music-wise?
Oh boy, you're in the duty.
Hang on. I'm hearing like music. What? Where is it coming from? Where is it?
Grant comes back in 5 minutes. Editha's dead. And everyone's just like, what the hell?
What the hell? Okay, so it's not that.
Can't do my fucking job.
Where is it? I swear I'm hearing... Hold on. So if I do that, and then... Oh, it's coming from my... Oh my god, it was coming from my mobile phone. It decided to play... It decided to play like a random song for some reason from Darius Deshawn. That made...
Do you think it picked me up and like...
No, I'm wearing headphones, so... No, like, it couldn't have been that. Also, hi there, Dazarus. Welcome to the stream. Alright, here we go. Okay, should be good to keep going. I'm getting the Dark Knight thingy, or not the Dark Knight, the Gunbreaker up and going.
More like the fun breaker.
What?
Once again, Cap over in the chat is the funny one, and Avalon, much like the Blue Power Ranger in that random series, is Scottish.
I'm Scottish!
RPM. It's the RPM is the best goddamn Power Ranger series. And I
suck
will
it,
take no substitutes.
Is it?
It is.
Okay, so I need to speak to... Oh my god, did I, like...
You need to quiz the fucking not them, the people around
Oh, okay.
Goyle.
Okay, so I need to talk to them.
Yeah.
I hear that Editha has become something of a recluse of late. I do hope she returns to grace the stage once more. Is it true?
True, her music is inspired by all the wondrous places she's seen on her travels.
You sound like you're an extra from Monty Python. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy.
Bring out your dead.
Ding 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 ding.
Oh, we're gonna be doing Monty Python bits all night.
Oh
now.
my gosh, probably. Editha.
We are the knights who say,
No.
Nope. Mission says speak with what's whoosy. I literally like ran ahead like an idiot. All right. Yom. Him the Dark Knight. So
But the duty quest says quiz the locals.
Oh, yeah.
what the? What? Oh my goodness. Okay, that annoys me that I'm like, because yeah, you were right on the first one. I was like, oh yeah, it is quiz. Like, ah. Okay, so I just need to talk to this guy. You are escorting the lovely Editha. Please allow. Wait, no, he should sound like Clayface. Aha! It's Lady Gaga. You are.
Oh my god! Lady Gaga!
Gaga. You are escorting the lovely Editha. Please allow me to make a record of this day's event. So you get. Oh, this is your. Oh, you missed it. Never mind.
Oh, whoops. Sorry.
There she is with the rabbit ears. Who goes there?
Who goes there?
Never mind. Step away from the girl. Nice and slow.
I think not. Grant the letter near.
Oh wait, hang on.
God, why are you letting him hit me? You guys suck at your job.
There we go.
Jesus Christ, look at these fucking AoEs. You guys suck at it.
I am doing my best.
I'm a massive bitch.
You think it's a little bit insensitive that she's wearing bunny ears and you're a bunny?
Nah. Like, isn't she
Those
actually
dirty
just...
fucking hoppers.
Wait, is it actually like
I
just
stabbed
a...
them with-
Oh, it is just a thingy-madoog. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a headdress.
Alright.
I hope you know that now I'm picturing Editha as like a race, like a full-on race with two scalps and Fiera.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Alrighty.
Your fucking buddy is, you filthy hopper.
I'll hold them off. I hope Editha is alright. What was all that about? If you require my assistance, do not hesitate to ask. Hi there, Thorin again.
There could be more of them, so be on your guard. We must be ready to strike at a moment's notice.
Nice. Alright.
I ain't doing Brave Fox's long stop tonight. Fuck all that.
Oh god.
Oh.
Fuck all that.
Wait.
Yeah, they never learn. Grant, take left again.
Oh. Hang on. I think I forgot my enmity thing.
Look at that
Oh, yes, you
fucking
did.
Gendrix. That's really bad. It's what's part of my fucking day. You such a bitches.
Like how she stands.
Where is it? There it is.
Be no mercy, wouldn't it? Ah.
Even though, like, these are all going on a hotbar, I'm still, like, moving the mouse down to click and everything.
Your assistance is much appreciated. Oh, the random card.
Every time that is what's part of my fucking day. I have one line. I just got fucking stabbed. What the fuck?
Oh, I'm gonna have a fun time with the Gunbreaker.
It is such a fun class.
But unfortunately, like, my fingers, I will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll just start clicking. Like, even if it's, like, Control 1, I'm just gonna click it.
Oh, Grant, they got my dress. Fuck. Give me a shirt.
Ah! You stole my shirt!
I need it. My titties are out.
Ah! Oop. Bonk. And then... Oh my god. I do not remember my effect. Oh my god, Avalon, why would you do this to me?
Remember to hydrate. Or dehydrate.
Delivers a potency. Oh yeah, so that requires like
You're
one
just looking up
hydrate.
at straw.
And then I'm gonna move you there then.
That's it. What a good one. That's it.
I like how when you get pat, yeah, it squishes like a shitty asset.
Oh yeah, that like that was something that Vignan can do, where it's like it can modify the scale of bones, which I really appreciate for the head pat when I imported it. So leave those rapscallions to me. I and the other wood whalers will be at the bottom of this. I'm taking you in for questioning.
Much farther now.
Okay, hang on. So Lightning Burst does that. Sonic Break deals a damage. So that does a damage over time. What's Camouflage? Okay, so Camouflage is... Okay, so that's 20 seconds. So No Mercy. Royal Guard is the Enmity thing. Danger Zone is another free attack.
Danger Zone!
Danger Zone! Nebula reduces... Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? I should put the free damages that are part of the combo down there. This doesn't require what's-a-mahoozies. Oh. I'm just in the middle, rearranging my hotkeys in the middle of, like, questing.
That's a big cat.
My, what a naughty little rabbit. It seems you've wandered too far from your warren. The stage is set for your curtain call, though it costs me a pretty penny to rent the place.
Meow.
This will be the last time you walk all over my stage with those grubby little paws of yours.
I wonder who could that be?
I wonder. Alright, so Nebula and then Aurora grants regen. I think I got it the right way around. Oop.
Aurora is your, Where's the warrior equivalent? The one where he bangs his chest? I just...
Oh, I did the...
no, it's like a self-heal.
Yep.
Oh, shake it off. Nice. Equilibrium.
That's the one. The only difference is Aurora is over time.
I have, like, no clue about AO, like, how far I can go.
Pretty far.
I wonder if I should have, like, a different sort of... Oh my god. Nope. Just trying to drag everyone here.
Okay, that might be a bit too much.
Right, so Ada?
And then... grab use. Times like these, I wish I had the Dark Knights, like, just shooting a line.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then... At least I'm staying alive because of someone. Useless, and you call yourselves professionals? Looks... Oh, never mind.
Yeah, they're very difficult to voice because it's so short.
Yeah, it is.
Meow. My name is Corey. I've been hired to kill this woman. I've been paid.
Gorb.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
Oh wait, I should probably like pull a little bit away. There we go.
It's so weird seeing you de-himbo-fied.
It is a little bit disgusting. That's why I have it like so expensive. Thank you for juicing me up. Okay, so that just does like a thing. Oh, that's my jumping attack.
Uh-oh.
I kind of wish that the himbo-fighting could stand.
The what?
Grab the balls! Grab the balls!
Oh, shit.
That.
I was once again just like in the middle of like looking at my hotkeys and just sort of being like, I am going to quickly like edit it and shit because I didn't read the tool tips. Go and then because really I could like, you know, grab the weird balls and what have you. Oh, I should be doing the alright, that's increasing the parry rate. That delivers the potency. There it is. Alright, so that's just the... So, boink, and then bam, and then jump over.
Hey, you sure do.
There we go. Read your tooltips. I'm in the middle of fighting Sashera. I'm trying to do multiple things at once. I read, like, some of the important ones, like the ones that do damage. And then, let's see, this one reduces damage, and then that one delivers an attack. Okay, so I need to swap these two around. And then heal. And leap.
Oh yeah, he does shirk you. That's funny as hell.
Hmm?
Ravana was shirking you. He was transferring the threat to you.
Ah, okay, that's neat. Did not pay attention that that was something that they were doing.
Do not. Do not. I know what you're thinking. Do not.
Donk.
One of these days, Grant is going to misclick and hit Super Blade.
Wait. What do you mean misclick the purple eyes?
Super Blade. It's the invulnerability for Gunbreaker, but it reduces you to 1 health.
Oh, no, it's all the way over here. Like,
Yeah, but your damage buff is right next to it.
oh, okay, move that up there. I was,
I'm gonna bounce. This headache's gone away.
sorry?
I'm gonna get out. This headache's fucking killing me.
Oh, okay. Well, not to worry. Like, thank you for joining in and, like, you know, keeping me a little bit of company at the start here. I really appreciate it. Yep. Oh, hi, Velk. Yes, I am doing my best as Gunbreaker. Don't worry.
Feel better soon, Cap.
Do this. Do that.
I just like saying that, sorry.
You. Yeah, I kind of wish I had the what's-a-mahoozy thingy-majiggy again.
Line?
The Dark Knights thingy-majiggy where it does a line of damage. Because I'm just too used to like grabbing them.
Yeah,
Now I have an
like-
opportunity to read the tool tips. All right, so this one just this one does damage over time, and you know does the same sort of thingamadook. Ah, neck. What the hell did I do to you? Your turn.
Oh, the show is over. Now, take off that mask before I cut it off, and your face with it.
How could we have?
Undine, no way. Miss Undine, I might have guessed, but what's Edith ever done to deserve this?
The harlot doesn't know the first thing about real music, and she thinks she can steal my fans, my stage, with those appalling outfits of hers. I wouldn't stand for it. I won't.
Chat has come together and thinks you should do 10 squats during the break.
All right, I'm gonna do the squats real quick, because there's an advertisement going off.
Oh, you're doing squats per advertisement now? Like every time there was one?
Each time, like, if anyone does like a squat redeem and such like that, then it goes off during the advertisement. So if no one does a squat redeem, then it's just a normal advertisement. And I think I might have forgotten to hit set squat on the last one, hence why it's only 10. So because if I don't hit set squat, it doesn't re-enable the command.
Oh, that's
One.
pretty great, actually.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So yeah, so because I'm pretty sure that's how I like if no one has done the redeem, but hang on, let me double check this in my streamer bot to confirm this. If no one's done the redeem, it just does the warning. Give me a few. Yeah, so if there is like a value of squats to do, the reward gets paused, then it like grabs this stuff, and then says I need to do some squats, hides the thing, and then if I add the squat count, yep, increases by 10. Set squat, there we go. So grabs the value, executes the code, unpauses the redeem. So yeah. So yeah, we're good now. Nice read, Velma. Is what Velk says. We kind of picked up on it because they didn't change their attire or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've heard that Ondine wasn't exactly a fan of Edith's, but I never thought she'd pay to have her killed. And now we know that the highwaymen in the woods were in on her schemes too. A few days back, they held up Odine's carriage in the shroud, but she made them an offer worth more than the valuable she was carrying. Mind you, I don't suppose there's many of the bastards left after today. You've done us all a good turn, so if you ever need anything from the God's Quiver, don't hesitate to ask. Donut. Nice donut. Monsieur, now that the danger has passed, Editha will at long last be able to make her triumphant return to Mikoto's amphitheater. There's still one thing I don't quite understand. Why did those highwaymen attack me and Ravana in the woods? Maybe it was because of your ears. I imagine Ondine told them how much I loved wearing my favorite bunny crown. They probably thought you were me. Ho! Those aren't real Vera ears. At least I don't think so, actually. I was wondering if I might have a word in private with the three of you. But there are 4 of us. Yes, but only if I include you, which I'm not.
Rip.
Rip. The Frenchman doesn't get anything. New shirt?
Zones.
Yeah, Galgadio this is a thing I have for some of my more common regular streams, is I will do I'll have a different shirt for some of the popular games. Or if there's a game coming up that I want to have a shirt for, I'll normally, because graphic design is my passion, I say, with no skill whatsoever. So this is my normal shirt, the Himbo shirt. This was the logo was done by Ritz Beretta. Booster Pang had made this shirt, so I was like, promoting this for a while. And then Fat Wolf had this design, Be More Massiver. Then we've got Halo when I was doing Halo shit. Halloween when I didn't have a costume. We had Dark Souls, which I'll probably wear for Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Cactor. Kingdom Hearts. I binged through like 6 months of Kingdom Hearts. You missed it. Spider-Man. And then we have God of War. Star Wars. The Legend of Zelda. And then this is for when it's a D&D game where you can't read it because my tits are too big, but hang on, let me just try and move my hands just a little, like, yes, they're natural. Zelda's good. So yeah, so when we're playing Final Fantasy, I wear this. So that's my thingamadoog. What have I done to deserve such treatment? Wait, no, that wasn't the French accent. Monsieur, what have I done to deserve such treatment? Well, I suppose a lady is entitled to her secrets. But before I return to my duties, I wish to express my gratitude for your part in today's events. You have both performed admirably. Now that pesky manager of mine is out of the way, let's get to the Great Lone Growery. She's just now doing her own fucking thing until people steal the shirt. Yes, people do steal the shirt, Sashera. People steal the shirt.
The shirt.
The shirt. So yeah.
The dressing.
One of the things I like, this is what I want to work towards, like when I get better in both 3D and coding and such like that. And I'm hoping because of programs like Motion or Obscure, when I have a chance to like properly dig into them and such, once I am able to do like 3D nonsense in them, is make it so that it's a channel redeem to change the shirt and what have you. Because I so want to do shirt designs. I want to like just have a... I'm going the wrong way. Oh wait, no, we are going the right way. Thank goodness. I was like, what are we doing in the fucking like herbologist area? I'm so lost. So, oh, one of the shirts I need to add on is Unname's shirt design. I'll need to check in with them if I can wear it. But they did the logo, and I love it, and it says, "All titty is good titty." So great. I love it.
Ooh.
It's just so real. So, like, I'm a fan of the big booba, don't get me wrong. Like, if I had my choice, I will... Man, I smothered my head in your pecs. I can give you a hug. Like, hug.
Murder.
Here. There we go. Great big bear hug. Oh, I don't have the image thing in the doogie there. Anywho, so yeah, so, like, I respect, you know, some people may not have the big booba and such like that, and that's okay. All booba is good booba. Whether you have big, small, 2, 5, 1, like, you know, booba. Alrighty. Cutscene. You risked life and limb to protect me, so I feel it only fair that I explain myself. 1 moment, please. Oh my god.
Oh. Ain't no it. What?
What?
You mean to say she was a sylph from the very beginning?
Ah, yes. This one feels much more comfortable now. It is fun to use glamours and play the harpsichord, but a little tiring. And this one spent so long in walking one's house, this one nearly died. These ones need the sun's rays to flourish, to live. This is why this one had to go outside, even though dangerous ones were all around. This one hopes helpful ones will understand and not tell simpering one. Listening one will be sad if this one can no longer play sweet, sweet music.
Your secret is safe with us.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Nod. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful. Promise you'll come to listen to my harpsichord soon. Yes, teehee.
I have big titty OCs of my own. Ooh. I do like a booba. There's been not safe for work content in the Discord, but it's in like a special section, so it's not available to everyone, even though I've ruled it as an 18 plus sort of Discord. I just don't want to have to deal with the fact of general chat might be mixed with safe for work or not safe for work. I'd rather keep general chat safe for work. That way I can like read the chat in case shit's going down while I'm at work. But yeah.
Cool.
Booba. So yeah.
Not quite the conclusion I was expecting, but a satisfactory one nonetheless. I must say, you've acquitted yourself rather well, Grant. It normally takes a lot longer for novices to grasp the fundamental differences between a gunblade and a regular sword.
Ugh, so much edge.
Blink. Did you notice they were just like blinking?
They were just like, huh?
Huh? Yeah. It was originally developed by my people in the Third Astral Era. The march of the Allegan Empire had driven us to the barren wastelands, where even survival was a constant struggle. Our queen, Gunhilder, was closely guarded by loyal soldiers known for the unique swords they wielded.
Oh, Cap told us about this.
These loyal vassals were known as the Gunhilder's Blades, a name that is abbreviated and applied to the most distinctive of their weapons, the Gunblade. Meanwhile, the Alligans were developing firearms capable of launching projectiles over great distances. As they were similar in appearance to our gunblades, we referred to these weapons as guns, a term which is now commonplace. So effective were these new weapons on the battlefield, the Queen's Guards decided to specialize in smashing through the enemy lines and destroying them as swiftly as possible. Thus did they come to be known as gunbreakers. Even after the fall of the Allagan Empire, these techniques were passed down to each new generation. My clan are the descendants of Gunhilder's royal guard, although I am all that remains. It is my duty to see that the art of the gunbreaker lives on, even if that means entrusting it to an outsider, such as yourself.
If you like history lessons, you two will get along like a house on fire.
I'd best leave it there for the time being. I don't want to overwhelm the lad. Best learning is done in the field, however. As pleasant as Gridania is, I am eager to see what the other city-states have to offer.
Then may I suggest Oldar? Their markets have goods from all over the world, and I'm dying to take a look.
Well, that it is then. Sophia and I will go on ahead. When you arrive, seek us out. We shouldn't be hard to find.
Nice.
Yeah, they
Also,
stick out like a sore thumb.
just a little bit. So yeah. Also, yes, Thorin is one of the big characters as well. They also stream as well. They're over in the States, however, so I don't get to do like a lot of... I don't get to like sit in and watch their streams and what have you half the time. I have way too many like American friends. Just too... Alright. Mood. Yeah, just having way too many Americans. So, there we go.
I'd imagine it's a bit more manageable since you're on that side of the planet, because over here it's like... My friend is reaching midnight and it's already like 6 in the morning for me.
Oh yeah, like, if, like, me, like, dealing with the UK and such like that isn't, like, the worst, quote-unquote, because, you know, UK and a lot of Europe is, at least on GMT, 0 or plus. And I'm, like, Australia's plus 10, which is just fucking huge. But then when you deal with, like, America, you're dealing with America, you know, that's -6 or something. So the time zone difference is just huge.
Yeah.
So, like, it's either they're barely awake or I'm barely awake. There is no great middle ground.
It's good to finally get away from that noisy marketplace. Not that this watering hole is much quieter. Still, it's a paradise compared to anything you'll find in Garlean territory.
I think he's just in a sour mood because he couldn't find any work.
You're not wrong there, Sophie. I'll keep looking though. Grant, you'd better train yourself until we find our next client, which, with a little luck, will be soon.
Nice. Oh, that, like, handed in the quest, and that's it. Alright. Alright, so I've already got those weapon skills done. That weapon skills is in. The 4 things here. So I've put the range... I don't know why. I put the ranged hit on 4 every time, and then 5 and 6 is my area of effect. Like, that's just how I roll. I've made control 4 the, like, the jumping attack. And then let's see. So Sonic Break and... Why is... Hang on. So, Sonic Break is the area of effect, and Burst... Oh, okay, so I should probably put... Wait, what? Why is Danger Zone part of abilities?
Yes, because Danger Zone... So, as you do your combo, your 1, 2, 3, you'll build up cartridges, right?
Yeah.
And Danger Zone is the way to dump it. Well, not dump it, it's just an extra ability. I think it's Burst Strike, that's the dump one.
Yeah, okay. So, because those, like, weapon skills were going to be, like, in one sort of area, which was down here. And then Danger Zone... Oh, actually, hang on a sec. Sonic... I'm going to put you down here at 9. Danger Zone will be in the dumping. But Sonic Break doesn't require cartridges from the looks of it. It just doesn't...
It doesn't.
Yeah, it just doesn't share a timer. Yeah. Alright. And then... No Mercy is increasing damage dealt by 20%, so that's in this row here. Camouflage. Royal Guard is the Enmity, so it's down there. So there's Danger Zone.
So, you know how in Warrior you've got Berserk and you just crit for a whole for a whole period of time.
Yeah, and like when it's up, when Berserk is upgraded, it's like, oh yeah, you can just use your like the big weapon gauge skills with no cost, and they'll like guarantee hit.
No Mercy is kind of like a soft Berserk. It just straight up increases your damage across the board.
Yeah. Alrighty, and then Super Bolity is the... That's called invulnerability, is it? When it's like, oh, you don't die?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Reduces HP to 1 and renders you impervious to most attacks. That is shit.
There are some... It's actually one of the better tank busters.
I accidentally activated it.
You're out of combat, so you'll just regen all that.
Yep, cool. Alright, so this is level 62, 64, 68, and 70. Where would these go?
So some of them... So that one is an AoE, which also applies at dot.
Yep.
It's a pretty generous AoE, too. Then you have Heart of Light, which is the equivalent of your Dark Knight party-wide anti-magic buff.
Yeah.
Heart of Stone is kind of like a shield that you pass around, kind of like a mini scholar.
Mm-hmm.
It also applies healing.
When targeting a
continuation.
party member while under the effect of Brutal Shell, the effect is also granted to the target.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so...
So
you gotta be doing your 1 and 2, and that applies the same.
Okay, so I would go 1, 2, and then this thing. Alright, so maybe put this down here, because, yeah, reduces damage, reduces for the party, reduces damage, and then... definitely need to think about... I do not want to get one of those mice that have, like, the 12 buttons on the thumb.
No, you don't need to.
Nah, definitely shouldn't, because this is, like, a game that you can play on a controller, and they've somehow been able to make that work.
Free cartridges.
Yep, free cartridges. And then these are because of doing an effect or something like that. So
They're your... So Gunbreaker has 1, 2, 3, and then has a whole thing, which is Savage Claw, Wicked Talon, Jugular Rip, and Abdomen Tear. These are your quote-unquote continuation skills. You can't assign them to a hotbar anymore, but the continuation skill is the one that has access to them.
wait, there's a skill called continuation.
Yeah, under your actions, almost at the bottom. Continuation there, level 70.
Ah. Okay, so that's why those aren't there. Okay. And then, yeah, I put Lowbrow and Interject up here. And fine, I'll put Shirk here, just so then that
No, you
way...
don't need to.
Because, like, as I said earlier, I don't use it.
Yeah, unless you're raiding, you probably won't need it.
Yeah.
But it's still funny to have it just to throw it on someone else.
Yeah. Well, I don't do the thingamajig. I try really hard to be as good of a tank as I can, because I don't want to be like, I don't want someone thinking, oh, he's just wanting to get into dungeons early for tank privilege.
No.
So, alright.
I tend to I use Shirk a lot when playing with friends, because I would just dump it on the nearest friend I could find.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so battle levies. Oh, these are all 25. Alright, so this is level 60. I would have been level 70 at the end of the... Will it let me do this quest if I'm not the right level? Probably not.
No.
Alright, what would be... oh, leveling. Good, I haven't done that. So... Average item level 170. Oh, I don't have that, so... Oh, that was fast.
You're welcome to thank you.
Yay! It doesn't normally happen.
Thank you is extremely fast.
Yeah, and then you're just waiting on the DPS who's just gone AFK. There we go. /P. And then... Alright, dunk. Alrighty. So... Thought there would be like more of them.
There are. It's just that Stone Vigil is not very friendly to anyone.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it a little bit slower because I'm getting kind of whacked. So. There we go.
Unavoidable.
Oh, so that just does the fucking...
Yep. It's not my favorite dungeon because of a few things like that.
Yeah. I don't think it was my favorite either, because, like, it has the weird... Is this the one with the cannons in it? So you have to, like... Oh, yeah, that's not my fave. I hate it. Like, the few times I remember to do the thingy-madoog, I have forgotten where to go. This way, I think?
Oh wait, the cannons, do you mean like with the massive turtle in the middle?
Yes, that
That's
one.
the hard mode.
Oh, okay, that's hard mode. Thank Christ.
You still have a fight with cannons, but it's the one where there's a dragon in the middle, you have to shoot the other dragon.
Yep.
Pops up.
Alrighty then. That one, I'm yeah, I think the lower level one then would be so there's 3 cannons that are like facing the what's-mahoozy thing. Oh, am I getting? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, like they're facing outside and you have to shoot a dragon as it appears. Or
Yeah.
else it just nukes the whole party.
Yep.
Yeah, this is not the best thing even in current.
Nah. And I remember when doing some other dungeons with Velk and such like that, they've definitely like gone back to earlier dungeons and fixed some mechanical bits, so they either didn't do something or they nerfed the damage.
Yeah, like Orm Vale. They kind of went back and redid a little bit of it. Because it was just such a pain.
Yep.
The funniest thing is the 1000 Maws. I'm sure you remember that dungeon.
It rings a bell. Is that the one that's like
Gridania?
Yeah, you're like in a... It's like a cave mine thing?
Yep.
You just like run through that very quickly and there's like a
like
scorpion at the end?
No. It's a cave full of plants, poison, all that junk.
Oh.
It's a very winding one, takes a lot of time.
I don't think I remember. I am having a hard time remembering shit, I'm sorry to say.
It's like the second dungeon you unlock, so it's fine. It's very forgettable too.
Oh, okay then.
The developers did a stream, I think it was, where they leveled from 0, and they were just in pain doing 1000 Maws.
Just because of all the AoE kind of nonsense going off? Oh shit!
Yeah, and it took forever.
Where's my cell? Nope, that's the wrong one. Where's the heals? I don't have my heals! Shit!
Oh yeah, you're way too low level for it.
I'm too low level for the heals!
Do you even have Super Blight? I don't think you do.
Nope. That's a
level 50, oh my god.
Yeah, I think the invulnerability thing was like a level 50 thing across everyone else. I'm just not used to... Oh my god.
That's an avoidable AoE too.
That's a what, sorry?
The breath is just unavoidable. He doesn't have a cast or anything for it, just does it.
Okay. Greed. Alright, I guess this way? There's a treasure chest, so I'm gonna say that yes, this is technically correct. This gives me like practice and what have you to do the things.
For sure. You also get a little bit more used to using First Strike.
Yep.
Which gets rid of your cartridges.
Yep. Is there like
In,
something
like,
that happens
iron.
when you keep holding on to cartridges?
Yes, so you have Burst Strike, which is a dump for the cartridges. You need cartridges to do your 4-5-6 combo. And there is... That's basically it. You just do cartridge economy with those two things.
Oh, okay, so
I
then...
think there's something else I'm missing, though.
Yeah. Oh, I've done a room veil like a shit load of times because I was reading a guide on like, oh, how do I quickly like collect stardust or something for a Realm Reborn relic weapon? They were like, grind a room veil, like just run through it as quickly as you can. And I was getting like pretty good at it. I think I was able to get it done like under 3 minutes, and I think I was doing a lot of the time. Granted, that was like unsynced, but you know.
Oh, wait. Yes, it is the one that ends with Scorpion.
The 1,000 Maw thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that one's that one's like quick to do, I feel. It's just, you know, annoying that it's such a long path.
Yep.
So. Ah!
It's been so long that I did it like years ago.
Nah, fair enough, fair enough. Well, at least this thing will get done the one of the things in the book. So.
Oh yeah.
So, because it's in my Wondrous Tales to do like a thing from 1 or 49. And this has us at around 43. And then ding. Gosh. This healer makes me very, like, nervous.
Yes.
They know their healing economy very well, because there hasn't been a time where I've had to, like, actually worry for my health or something like that. Or, you know, actually died. But, yeah, no, I've worried.
You can pad your skills with the danger zone, because it's off cooldown.
Which one's Danger Zone? I can't... Oh, yeah, I can do Danger Zone. That's level 18. Nice.
So you're just, like, doing your normal skills, and you can just toss the danger zone in there.
Alright, I'll give that a try here. So if I go ding, and then even if I go 1, 2, and then I can just throw a
can
Danger
do it.
Zone here, and I can then still do 3 with a bonus. Excellent.
Yeah. Just double weaving, or weaving as it's called.
Yep.
It gets a little more hectic with short day.
Yeah. Well, this is a level, like, 43 dungeon, so it's not...
Yeah.
So this is, like, very toned down. I feel like this is, like, not the first time either, but it's, like, every time you get a class where it's like, oh, it starts at level 50, it feels so weird to play from, like, below it.
Oh, they changed this whole fight. Huh. Okay.
Nice. It's not as problematic.
Yeah, this used to be the one with the cannons that you had to shoot at the other dragon.
Yep. Okay. Unless you're talking about, like, later on.
No, this was the one.
This was the one with the cannon?
Yeah.
I don't know.
With the... Used to be this whole thing was kind of closed off. You had, like, yeah, with the tornadoes and everything. It is this fight.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
they just revamped it. That's kind of interesting.
And this, which allows me to then do that. I'm slowly getting the hang of it between, like, just having my fingers on the 1, 2, 3 and then clicking where I needed to go.
Like I said, it's like the busiest of the tanks because of that. Because you can just move stuff in
Yeah.
easily.
So I'm way too used to my warrior where it's like, oh, damn it, that was fuck up on me. So, because I'll like just simply be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, let me buff my damage. 1, 2, 3, like control 3 or something like that. And half the time I'm just like clicking on it like I do Danger Zone. I do not have my... Hopefully I timed that correctly. Yes, I did. Because raw intuition is like 2 seconds long or something. And sometimes I don't get that right.
Oh, you're gonna hate whenever you have to use Super Light, because that thing has a delay of like 3 seconds.
Got hit by the fucking tornado again. This is the busy tank part is, oh, I'm not looking at the environment, I'm looking at my taskbar.
Here goes Grant blasting off again.
Yeah. And don't use my normal. Oh. Oh. Ooh, need. Yeah, I can greed that because I didn't get the cuffs last time. And then this a ways.
It's actually really cool that they redid that fight.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good, that's good. Alright, dink, and then use that just as a quick thingy. Woo! Even after, like, fucking up in the tornadoes, I have not died. You...
Oh no, wiping here is awful. You have to do the walk of shame. There's no shortcuts.
Oh, is there? Okay, okay. Oh yeah, I could be using, like, camouflage and shit to help me out.
So the main difference, I guess not many people talk about it, but raiding is very different from just dungeon. In raid you stack your cooldowns, so you use rampart and camouflage and whatever else.
Yep.
In dungeon you just cycle.
Yeah, cause like a dungeon is a like you can have your sprints or what have you, but then in a raid it's a little bit more of a marathon where you kind of have to choose when you want to like burst all the different abilities, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of like more of a, yeah, it's a marathon, kind of like endurance thing.
Yep.
There's some bosses that are just straight up DPS races, and those are, for a tank, they're absolutely awful.
Yep. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, because they're basically what's happening to you right now, but constantly.
Okay, okay.
It's like, oh, my health is down. What do? All the cooldowns.
Oh my
Still
gosh.
health is down.
Yeah, I'd probably stick to warrior then if I was to go into raids or something, just for the fact of I want to just do my 1-2-3 combo. I do not want to deal with what's-a-mahoozy. Oh, nope, everyone's ready for a fight. Here we go.
Is gebind, or however the name goes.
Yep. Eyes bind, I think I would have called it.
Milk said they redid this, so I'm wondering. So I'm kind of excited to see it.
Alright, fair enough. Well, I'm glad I'm presenting you with an opportunity to watch this. So, because I remember doing this as a warrior and just, like, running around. Because this was definitely when I was in the US, and it was like, I couldn't do greed. Like, that's not a...
Yeah.
So... And from what I learned, greed is like a melee DPS importance, isn't it?
It's hugging the boss as much as you can to get all that uptime.
Yeah. So that's why, like, anytime I do have to run away from things, I am gonna at least throw the ranged thingy-majiggy out, just so then that way I can, you know, help in the damage. Oop.
Oh, okay. So he only does that, the ice thing that doesn't leave ice behind, and he only does this once.
I think I think when I played, they did used to leave ice, or it might be only when it was like halvesies instead of the thirds.
Oh no, they used it to device. This was very hectic because it took up a lot of the arena. The flight he does, or did, also, he did it like 2-3 times or so.
Yep.
This was just a not very fun dungeon because it was just unnecessary hard.
It felt like a bit of a filter, you would say?
I'd say it felt punishing for no reason. I wouldn't say filter, I would just say it was just outright punishing.
Alright, fair enough.
This is like, what, 43?
Yeah, 43.
Arm fail is around that, right? Well, Ray Flux is it? Okay, to avoid doing Stone Vigil, I would legitimately do Brave Flux. We all know Brave Flux is suffering.
Alright. Barely remember Brave Flux, I'm gonna be real with you. Oh, that's kind of hilarious. He does the same side. Normally they would change their tactics, but surely they won't think I will do it again.
Exactly. They never expect it. They remade Brave Flux? Oh lord. What an era I'm living in.
Oh, is the DPS doing it at a good time? No, the DPS is not doing it at a good... Oh, wait, they did do it at a good time. A lot of the times I've seen the DPS, like, do the thingy-majiggy, I'm gonna be real, sometimes they don't do it, like, as an actual, like, proper finisher. Oh, I can't... Alright, Greed... pass on that. Need on... Really? I got those? Okay, and then Greed on this. And then... Leave.
Yeah, so something that people sometimes miss is when you... at least the final boss always gives you, and you specifically, a piece of gear.
Okay.
And then you have to roll on the rest.
Okay, hang on. So... Oh, yeah, I see it here. So I attained the blue dragon card and then a pair of the vigil thingamadoogies. And they were added into the inventory. And then there was like all the stuff getting added to the loot table. So... And I went up no levels when I did that. Joy.
Yeah. Welcome to Stone Vigil.
Okay. Alright, I am going to pull off a return so I can go back into the Maelstrom and hand in the stuff that I got in that loot there.
Are you converting it to the
Marks, yeah. So that's why like I rolled greed on it, because it's like it's useful, especially if I'm gonna do some of the relic weapon stuff. So although
You know what's screwy? And I really appreciate this change they made. The lodestone there that you used to teleport didn't used to have a map, so you just had to memorize what the name of things were.
Oh, no, I could not. I have a hard time remembering people's names.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Alright, hand those things in. Rogue and yeah, okay, I'm never gonna wear these, to be real with you.
That's why I was looking at it and I was immediately like, Aft Castle.
Yep. Annoying that, like, promotions, like, are no longer a thing after hitting, Storm Captain. I was hoping for more. And then...
I think you can... Is that Captain the last one? I think there's like a lieutenant or something like that.
They...
Or I'm just hallucinating.
So... Supposedly, you could, like, look here. Second Storm Commander, First Storm, High Storm, Rear Marshal to Storm Champion. I've not seen anyone go to those levels. And from what I've been told, that was, like, just something they're not doing. Like, there is no... Which I think is, like, a little sad. Because I feel like... I feel like these could have been, like, the quote-unquote PvP... like, promotions. So, like, it obviously wouldn't be for everyone, but it would be an opportunity to, like, go higher, like, during a season, so-called.
Yeah, I think the initial idea was for Realm Reborn, they were gonna have more involvement with the Grant companies.
Mm-hmm.
But as you saw with Heaven's Word and everything, they just kind of abandoned it completely.
Yeah. No, fair enough. All right.
They're just like token representation of the major cities' military, I guess.
Okay. Let's see. Yum. Now, I think I already know the answer to this, but are they gonna let me accept this quest while I'm in the middle of being a gunbreaker? Oh!
Probably not.
Yeah, no, they'll let me. With a thingamajig. So this will give me a level 70 weapon as well. Interesting. I thought it would block me. It would be like, you're not using your level 70 character or something. Good news, everyone! Good news, Grant! I couldn't do Professor Farnsworth if I tried. You just can't hand it in. Oh, damn. I was hoping if I could, like, accept it, I could hand it in. Good news, Grant. We've had a stroke of luck in our search for that beacon. Apparently, our colleagues have stumbled across a hidden path leading into the hollows around the base of the Crystal Tower. Close that window. A path I doubt we'd ever have found had the Ironworks and the Suns not added their numbers to the party. Thanks to them, we have eager eyes aplenty down there, checking under rocks and peering into every nook and cranny. Still, it sounds like there's a lot of ground to cover. Then we better go and give him a hand. My thoughts exactly. The sooner we find this beacon, the sooner you can travel to wherever it is this mysterious voice is coming from. And the sooner we can work out how to help our friends. We have to find a way to wake them up, and before the Empire comes calling again, meaning we have no time to lose. There's a boat in North Silvertier waiting to ferry people to the site, so let's be on our way. Ooh, there's a little electric guitar in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a little electric guitar, just like, we know. Alright, here we go.
That should be the, isn't that the Stormblood sound?
No, Stormblood was, what's the one with, like, the wobbly, like, it's like, you know the snake charmer horn sounding thing, where it's just like,
Yes.
that thing. So that was in Stormblood. Heaven's Ward had the orchestral, like, boom, 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 boom. And then A Realm Reborn has, like, just the normal sounds. They've not fucked around with that. Oh. So, Cypress Trench. Nyom. Nyom. Dun-dun-dun. I remember a long time ago I was thinking I would try, like, I thought I would somehow get this game done in like a year, and then I would just be doing all kinds of side content in here. This is now the second year I've been going through this, and I've only just hit ShadowBringers, which was where the game was when I started.
Welcome to Final Fantasy.
Yeah, takes a shit long time. I should have learned this from Final Fantasy 15.
By the end of it, you'll have forgotten everything.
As you no doubt have heard, I have forgotten a lot of A Realm Reborn.
Yep.
I legitimately forgot what the final boss looked like without his mask, and even when his mask was presented, I was like, the fuck is that? Headed to the...
I don't even remember.
Yeah. Like, basically, chat had to tell me, like, just as, Alphano told me about it. Heading to the survey site, sir. It's on the eastern shore of the lake, and the swiftest way to get there is by boat. Take the boat to the survey site. Yes,
Did
please.
you...
Did I?
Did you get to, my brain's not working right now. I'll be with you in a moment.
All right. Doing more of Tetaru's thing.
Oh wait, I know exactly what this is.
Dun, 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 dun. I've heard this music so much now. This is just going to be ingrained in my head during NPC conversations, I feel, one day.
It's kind of a tense/glorious moment.
Look how many people
Yeah.
there are.
It makes me feel like as if... It's like the Rohirrans when they're like preparing for war kind of thing. Like they're, you know, dousing out the fires and they're running and they're heading to Gondor. It makes me feel of that music. Oh,
Should we get to it then?
this is voiced. I can
Pick
just...
up anything that seems the least bit device-like, and we'll make ourselves a pile.
Nice, we're going scavenging
Well,
hunting.
isn't the hero of the hour. Maybe you'll change our look. We've found bugger all without you.
That's what big sounds like?
Yep. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't expecting it either.
I wasn't either. Because I swear to you, I thought Big sounded just like as a big dude.
Yep.
He
He just sounds weird.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my god. I keep like this is my headcanon before the Lalafels were talking, but I imagine the Lalafels always have like a helium-like voice. But that is not the case when I listen to Papalemo and Whatsamahoozies. So
Yu Hazing?
Yu Haz.
Have you heard his Japanese voice?
No, I've not heard his Japanese voice.
I gotta go find you the video then.
Oh my god.
You've been through it when they, it was in Heavensward, yeah. So the reason why you went to Ishgard was to run away from the whole plot to assassinate
Yep.
Sultana, right? And there's like this, it concludes with Ravan challenging the guys.
Yep.
The freaking Crystal Braves or whatever the name was.
It was the Crystal Braves who were supposedly going to be like an army underneath the Scions. They were going to do a coup. Raban was blamed for the death of Sultana. He lost an arm. He killed Yu Hase, I believe.
Yeah, it's in that confrontation where Ilberd chops off his arm.
Yep.
That Yuhaz speaks, and the Japanese VA for Yuhaz is incredibly deep voiced.
Oh my! Oh, is it like a Dio where it's just sort of like
worse? It's even deeper.
There is no. There is not a VA out there that is somehow doing a deeper voice than Dio, especially when he's just like, oh. No custody. Oh, I can't say the rest of the Japanese.
No, I've sent you the video on telly. It is extremely deep.
Oh my god. Chat, we're going to interrupt this moment. Alrighty, open up this thingamadoogies. What the fuck? What the? Like, Alphanaut sounds like, an Ichigo or Ishida. I've been watching a lot of Bleach 1000 Year Blood Arc, so hence why I'm referring to them. And then there's just...
No, Dio's got nothing on Yu Hazen. Just, yeah.
This is bullshit! He's 3 feet tall! He has no right to have that. His voice box is like down to his balls.
Yep.
Like, what the shit? What's this one? SpongeBob and Patrick do the MSQ.
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, because it like goes as far as Endwalker, and then apparently most replayed here. Spoilers, the moon. I've already been spoilt about this because of the fucking Endwalker intro video where they're just sort of like a fucking paladin on the moon. Oh my gosh, I just was not expecting that low of a voice. Like, Jesus. All right.
See, I told you, Dio's got nothing on him.
Oh my gosh. All right, I swear to Christ, if Wedge has that kind of a voice, I'm gonna need to take a bathroom break.
Biggs, Wedge.
Maybe.
Aye, aye. Well, we could hardly say no to a call for aid from the Scions. Jesse called it the chief of some other business, so we'll be working twice as hard to make up for his not being here.
Thrice as hard, even.
Like, thrice as hard. Like, it does definitely have a sound of, you know, Julia Childs? That,
Yes.
Yeah, like, how does that, like, they sound drunk, but they're not slurring the words. It's just sort of like, highs and lows and highs and lows.
Yeah, the lilt
Thank you,
and
both
the
of you. I'm
rolled
sure
R's.
we'll find that beacon in no time.
Yeah. So,
Find the bacon.
find the bacon.
The bacon.
Bacon.
I'm not seeing anything out here.
I can't take Big seriously.
Yep.
I'm like, he's not Wallace. I know that much. But just
Listen, at least he's got big himbo energy now with that voice.
he does. Like, here's the thing: Rogadins, I feel like, just inherently have the himbo energy. That's why I went with them when I first started, before I drank a phantasma and all that kind of nonsense.
Do you reckon you could squeeze in there, Wedge?
And get stuck halfway? No, thank you.
I could try if you like.
Oh my gosh. Brainwave. Okay. If they ever did a Final Fantasy 14 movie, or, you know, some sort of Final Fantasy where it's that similar sort of size difference between Biggs and Wedge, what if it was Simon Pegg and Nick Frost?
Yeah, I could see that working.
Yes. They were so great for
I was
Thompson and
thinking-
Thompson.
I personally think that Wedge would be, and you're probably going to hate me for this, Adam Sandler.
Sorry. Go back a bit. Wait. Wedge as Adam Sandler. Or sorry, Adam Sandler as Wedge.
Yeah.
Who would... So what, Kevin Spacey would be Biggs?
Yeah, I could see that working, yeah.
Oh yeah, because he was the, he was Frankenstein in Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sasha, I took a clip, but YouTube was on channel. Yeah, that's... like, I got punked, like, with, I use Opera GX if I want it in the VOD channel, but if I don't want it in the VOD channel, I utilize Chrome, or iTunes, or Moobot, and all those kinds of others. It's so then that way, like, you know, even if I'm in the middle of doing a karaoke of, I like 'em big, I like 'em chunky, chunky, I don't have the actual music in the clip. You just have to deal with my offbeat tones.
Tataru, no! We couldn't ask you to do that.
Oh, I'll be fine. This receptionist is not afraid to get her hands dirty.
Damn.
Most useful reception.
Oh yeah, I did shift it. Hang on a second. You're right. I didn't turn it back on. There we go. Because I had desktop capture on, which cuts out the bottom and the top a bit.
I meant to say, the scholars haven't finished their preliminary assessment of the site yet, so we're not supposed to venture too far in. What's that you got there? Now that looks promising.
Isn't that the Ironworks symbol? Counterfeiters?
Now I have you.
Oh, god damn it.
You are right.
What's happening?
The Lalafels with their little dance of panic.
Focus on my voice. Let expanse contract. Eon become instant.
Wait, this must be it. The device. Oh, this is supposed to happen.
Throw wide the gates that we may pass.
Oh, safe journey, warrior of light. Find our friends and bring them home.
Pain.
So, I really like the Japanese VAs for these two next expansions. The English ones are kind of hit or miss for me.
I'm not going to switch to the Japanese at this point.
No, absolutely not.
The only time I've done like a full-on Japanese was Ghost of Tsushima. And the reason for that was because, one, it's Ghost of Tsushima. It was fucking awesome, and I did it at the start. And Yakuza, Like a Dragon.
Oh. Okay, bold.
So, just... What the fuck?
The dawn's light will shine again.
Oh, do not look at me so.
Hachafont!
Slaves to a tyrant! There's no freedom in that!
This is one battle you cannot fight.
Away with you.
I must say your spirited accounts always comes in well.
We did everything right. Everything that was asked of us, and still it came to this.
Oop. I swear to Christ, if this is a... Oh, it is Minfilia.
Your time has not yet come.
I was worried for a second it was going to be like a Kingdom Hearts moment. Where it was going to be like something about the light and the darkness memories. Or no, yeah. It was going to be something Kingdom Heartsy because of my experiences. The ShadowBringers one? Nah. I've not seen the cinematic trailer for that. Oh, it's the warrior. I'm guessing the warrior of darkness then. Yep.
You're about to get Whiplash, which is a few moments.
I've been flashbanged like 3 times now, so...
No, Whiplash, not Flashbang, Whiplash.
Oh.
You'll see why.
This is outside of, what's Mahuzi? Outside of Ishgard. Like, during our trek to the Dravinian hinterlands, I want to say. Or I could be grasping at straws here.
From endless dreams I awake. Something vague, yet urgent, calls me to action once more.
There's an advertisement going off for Peeps. Wait. We've seen him before.
The dude.
This is he's the...
To meet someone out here who's not a peddler themselves.
Yeah, this is...
You into the wilds this time of night.
This is What's-a-Mahoozy, the, Also, why didn't it disable the... That's the Traveler at, like, the start of A Realm Reborn, when we were either in the caravan or, like, I was on a ship because I was going to, Limsa Lominsa. That's the Traveler who was with us. Like, and...
That's the dude on the beginning of everything, yeah.
Yeah, like, at the start. Alright, hang on. Is they advertise? 5 more seconds, 5 more seconds, 5 more seconds.
I think you can delay advertisements. I'm not sure how Twitch has done it this time around.
I can delay them, but the thing is that by the time I saw it, it was already about to happen, and I couldn't, like, hit snooze. But yeah. Sashara! It was the fucking merchant! But it's bright as day.
Well, if it ain't the oldest joke in the book. Me granddad, God's rest his soul, used to tell that one to the barman at kicking out time.
Some real European
And
accents.
when, pray tell, did we last have a dark night? You rotten old drunk, you, he'd reply.
Yeah. I don't... Wait, when was ShadowBringers released?
100 bleeding years ago. That's when.
This was like, what, 2016? Oh, please don't flashbang me
You got
again.
that look down to a T. I'd almost think you meant it. Ah, got to you, did they? Poor beggar. That explains it then.
I think it's pre-COVID.
Yeah. 2019. Okay, yeah, so this is like a good several years after Skyrim. So maybe it was a reference.
Well, I've roads to travel and wares to sell. But you'd best hurry along to the town nearby.
Is this the voice you expected him to have?
Just head east through the trees and aim for the Shining Tower.
A little bit?
Soon enough.
Like, it wasn't as much of a shock with, like,
For malms around.
with Biggs and such, because, like, it has all the apostrophes and shit, which makes me think of, you know, this kind of accent.
Good care of you in the Crystarium.
So the traveling merchant's, like, voice isn't a shock to me because of the use of apostrophes earlier.
By the way, for whom weeps the storm? If you ever want to go back and see how the menus work,
Ow!
Watch the cinematic. Let's get back.
Dizzy.
Ow!
Gleaming spire. Its tip threatening to pierce the blinding canopy.
I am the smart. I am the smart. Mr. Marty.
There.
I got absolutely blasted.
Between dark and light. The pure
Just
and
went
the corrupt.
Pow.
The one true struggle.
That's not how the... Like, the tower's not active anymore for us. Talon! You're killing me! Also, thank you, Natala, for the follow. I greatly appreciate it. Oh my god, I got fucking blasted. And I've not yet made the thingy-majiggy of being able to, like, make the camera do the locking feature on and off again. I've not yet been able to figure that out. Let's see. Oh, wait, no, I think I know how to do it. Hang on. I got an idea.
Best song of the whole expansion, by the way.
Ow. Thank you for the 45 bits. And for whatever reason, the JPEG isn't running. That's annoying. I thought the Twitch alerts would, like, be a little more accurate in being able to do the the whatsamahoozy. Let's see. So timer starts refresh. Death is 0. This is a death trigger. Does this? That's that. And then death is 1 on thingy refresh. Oh,
Wonderful! Time for a celebration! Cheese for everyone!
Thank you for the 500 bits and enjoy your cheese. Where's my camera? Dink, and then a bong. There we go, and it's camera
Wonderful!
1.
Time for a celebration! Cheese for everyone!
Why all the bits, Talon Fizz? You're now like number 1 with my bit usage, 1,245. So many bits. And I think I've made it where it's like once you get into the 500 range, it's like every like 10 bits will then do a damage. Like I've been fiddling with the damage system, but it's not perfect. Plus it's like loud as F in my ears. I need to fix that. Actually, if I go here and then do it like 50%, that should help. Ding, there we go. You have a Unity pack to add Final Fantasy XIV animations to VRMs? Oh, I think I've seen that for VR chat models. I might know of the zip you're talking about. There's also one for Fortnite dances.
Halt!
Oh, it's a bunny girl.
Bunny wife.
Hi.
Every face in this city I know. Yours, I do not.
My name is Grant. I am just so infatuated with
This is the
you.
threshold of the Crystarium, stranger, and I am its gatekeeper. If you would enter, you will answer my questions.
Can we get the Final Fantasy XIV stretch video, but with Grant? I don't know that one. Donk. Limsa Lominsa.
Do you take me for a fool? No such place exists.
The fuck?
Had you given me an honest answer, I would not have barred your way. We care little here for a person's place of origin. But instead, you chose concealment. And I will not suffer you to pass.
That's bullshit. Oh, is this when they introduced Dancer? Was in ShadowBringers.
I remember that, right?
That one had eaten. It must have gulped down the whole hand. Ring and all.
I don't recognize it. Hang on. Oh no! That's not good. Fuck!
Everything all right, Captain?
Quite all right, my lord. Just a stray sin eater, and a weak one at that.
Suspicious, man. Looks suspicious.
Weak or not, we should be on the lookout for more. But I see you've met my guest. I will escort him to the Crystarium myself, if you've no objections.
Another of your mysterious friends, is it? I should have known. Very well. I'll inform the others your guest is to be given the run of the city. Pray forgive my less than cordial welcome. May the rest of your stay with us be a pleasant one.
Ow, everything will be alright. I forgive you.
Bun wife, bun wife, bun wife.
Bun wife, bun
Come
wife.
with me. I will answer whatever questions you have when we are somewhere more private.
I thought he was taller than me for a second.
Oh, he's tiny.
He's up. Yeah, he's just a. I keep forgetting how the the very... What's the... Vieira, they're actually pretty tall peeps.
Right then. Before we plunge into the wheres and wherefores, let me first thank you for answering my summons.
Regular.
Okay. Thank you for the cookie, Talonfizz. Ooh, cookie.
I had intended to bring you directly to my personal quarters, but I fear my aim was slightly off. That you were still able to make the crossing unharmed is a great relief. And so, we come to the question of where. The realm in which you now find yourself belongs to one of the 13 reflections, or shards. The first, to be precise, even if its inhabitants are largely oblivious to the fact.
And where in the 13th reflection normally? Is that it?
As to wherefore, having been awarded the rather grandiose title of Crystal Exarch, I, in my capacity as caretaker of the Crystarium, thought to seek the aid of you and your companions.
Righto. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused? The number of people...
An inkling, yes. I can only beg your forgiveness. Matters here forced my hand. But all shall be explained in due course, I promise you.
They better.
Let us begin with the glaring skies up above. Here in the first, the world has been all but consumed by primordial light. It began a century ago, by this realm's reckoning. A luminous flood swallowing everything in its path. More than 9/10 of this star was lost.
Huh.
And the fortunate few who survived are hounded by abominations born of that catastrophe even now. Sin Eaters, we call them. The creature you saw earlier was one such monstrosity. It was to save the first from this menace that I learned to bridge the rift between worlds. That I might call upon the aid of the greatest of heroes. And though it meant depriving a world of its champion, I had to try, for in saving the first, you would bring salvation.
Cookie for Talonfizz.
There you go. You were in the source.
Oh, okay. So we're in source. They're in shard 1.
But what manner of host harangues
Where
his guests in
Tataru
the
is
middle
is
of
the
the road?
source. Where this guy is the
Let us
first.
continue our talk within the Crystarium.
The 13th reflection, if you remember the lore, is the one that blew up, where the void scent come from.
Oh. Okay, so 13 was where the void. So you're saying 13th was where the void scent came from. Where from the source? You said.
Yep.
And then this guy is saying he's from the first shard.
Yep.
All right.
And you're currently in the first.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So where did the Warriors of Darkness come from? Were they from the 13th shard as well, or? We don't know where, because they accomplished their task of, like, destroying all darkness, but then something happened.
I won't answer that because spoilers.
All right. Velx
Those
has no
are
clue.
What you're asking are major spoilers, actually.
Fair enough. Cookie for Talonfizz once again. I need to figure out why my mouth does that, where it's like, if I provide a cookie or something, it decides to just go, grin.
Why, aren't you happy about cookies?
No. I do this grin thingy-majiggy because the pose basically goes over top like most of the animation, except for arms or when I'm like moving like actual head and such like that. But the problem is that if I don't set my legs, for example, I drop down to the ground and I take on like the Unity's like huddle position, which is dumb. So animations are a weird thing to play on this one.
Fail to answer its call.
Welcome to Unity.
Yeah.
For who among us does not yearn for salvation?
No, we got all kinds of peeps here.
Well, look, I'm Alja.
Ooh. Norvandi. Nice.
Yeah, there you go. You can't hand it.
Cannot complete unless the following conditions are met. Any disciple of war or magic. Darn. And here, actually, you know what? Hang on. And here we are. Welcome, my friend, to the Crystallium. Nice.
So the chests reward you with the weapon
For what you have, like,
the class that you are.
Yeah. No, I'm like, unless it stipulates like the class, it's normally for the class that you're set as. Yeah. I need to figure out what to do with all this ancient shit, though.
It's the what's it called? It's the level 50 stuff.
Okay, okay.
That you hand in at Mordona.
Alrighty, well, definitely gonna try and get rid of all of them, because they were taking up room in my, retainer.
Oh, they're good for, glam.
Wait.
Because they don't go into the glamour dresser, they go into the armoire.
What, these things? Or... Oh,
Yeah,
no, because...
Yeah, you go to Mordona, there's a vendor there that you can, exchange those for the item, for the, class or job. And then you just put them in the armor instead of the glamour dresser. That's basically it.
Now, a full and frank discussion in the privacy of my study would seem to be in order. Cool, I don't have text advancement on. But I think our conversation would be more meaningful were you first to gain a firmer grasp of the situation here. To that end, I would like you to visit a few of the Crystallium civic leaders and glean something of this world and its predicament. Nice. Dun, dun, dun. As you can see, this path will take you directly to the Aetheryte, a convenience with which I am sure you are only too familiar with. Being the rightful object of my summoning spell, you should in theory be able to reach all the way back along your aetheric trail and find a connection in the source, believe it or not. I strongly suggest you complete this attunement before venturing any further. Alright, well that's cool. After you have done so, walk up the steps next to the Aetheryte and head out to the left to arrive in the Crystalline Mean. This is where you'll find our collective of crafters and gatherers, as well as their spokesman, Catless, one of the people I should like you to meet. Another is Morin. To reach him and his Cabinet of Curiosities, you'll want to avoid the aforementioned step. Take the exit on the left and simply continue straight along and down until you come to the large doors at the end of the path. The third and final person I should like you to meet is Bragi, our man in charge of trade and distribution. He is to be found in the market, which you can access from the opposite side of the Aetheryte Plaza. In seeking out each of my colleagues, you will visit the major districts of the city and hopefully gain a feel for the place. I trust my directions were simple enough? Crystal clear. So, go up the stairs for the Crafters and Gatherers, go through the left side for the Collector of Curiosities, go through the right side for Commerce and Distribution. Ha! Very good. I can see the layout of the Crystallium owes more to historic necessity than planning, but I'm sure you'll learn its twists and turns before long. In all honesty, the true challenge may be in finding the right way to approach its citizens. As you discover during your encounter with the captain, the people of this world are unaware of the existence of other stars and will struggle to accept the truth of our origin. That being the case, when they ask whence you hail, as they inevitably will, I suggest you claim to share a homeland with the Crystal Exarch. There is an unspoken rule here about peering too deeply into that particular mystery. When you finish making the rounds, pray meet me in the large courtyard at the center of town. Until then. Also, hi there, Jack Raiden. Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. I'm going through ShadowBringers. And I really want to go to the bathroom. I'm going to attune to this thing, hit the advertisement, go to the bathroom. I'll inevitably have to do squats once I get back. Did you miss something? No, I don't think you missed anything important. I just need to attune to this Aetherite thing, hit an advertisement, and then I'll do the squats that I inevitably have to do once I get back from the bathroom after the advertisements. I have attuned to the Aetherite. Alright. Avalon, I'll need you to, you know, keep my chat occupied. Tell him something fun about, tell him the coolest way you can handle a great sword while traveling or something. I don't know.
I guess I can try.
Absolutely.
Chat has come together and thinks you should do 10 squats during the break.
Bathroom break.
One's going on top of me. Nah, so sure, he's just going for a bathroom break. He's going through the motions of ShadowBringers and ethereology in general. It's me, Avalon.
Tell him about the Zweihander.
I'm a little marshmallow. May get me. I've just been using it about enough. It's ShadowBringers, yeah? Plenty of questions that Grant has that are absolute major spoilers. It's a fun expansion. I think
Hello!
It's easily one of my top favorites. It has a bit of everything. Hi. What Grant was talking about with the whole carrying swords and whatnot is because I used to do HEMA, or historical European martial arts. Some of you may be acquainted with it, some of you may not. Basically, we just look at old manuals, like medieval era manuals, on how to use this or that weapon. And we do our best to, along with historians, research that. Oh, you're fine, so sure. At this point, it's been 4 years since ShadowBringers happened, so for most of us, it would not be a spoiler, but you know. And one of the funny things is Grant loves longswords, and it's perfectly fine. But the funny thing is, a lot of people think that the Zweihander, for example, which has cousins. It's not just the German that invented the Zweihander. It has a variant in the Iberic Peninsula called the Montanti. They're basically the same thing. There's some differences, not just in heraldry and whatnot, but also in how it's weighted at the hilt.
2, 3, 4, 5.
But Grant here thinks that he knows best, that the longsword is best, but you know, the Zweihander has its purpose. That's why it exists.
10. The Zweihander is an overruly looking fucking sword.
You can't hit a Zweihander if you can't reach them.
Oh, then I'll just use a fucking spear or a halberd then. That's the like that's
They're designed. It's a sword specifically designed to combat pike and spear. I'll just shove you to the side and doink you.
What?
That's why the Zweihander came to be. Because at the period that it came about, everything was pike formation.
Zweihander versus pikes, a theory. Why are they calling it a theory? Is this like
everything in Heme is a theory?
Oh, it's like how everything in physics is a theory. God damn it.
Yeah. Basically.
5 two-handers can cover a position better than 5 pikemen. Pikes can only attack what is in front of them. Two-handers can defend what is beside them, in front of them, and behind them easily. The use of swords in all fight manuals focuses on how the sword can attack and defend against many. Oh, well, I thought it was going to tell me more. But yeah, my experience of the Zweihander was only from Dark Souls, not HEMA. And Dark Souls, like, let's be real, it's a video game. It does not follow the normal conventional rules of physics. I should have known this, considering they don't treat guns like shotguns and silencers in the same rule. So I was just like, Zweihander is unruly. It's too big, it's heavy. Go with, like, I put the bastard sword, I put the cavalry sword. I said the katana was overrated because it's just, you know, cleverly folded pieces of iron.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The funny thing about the Zweihander in Dark Souls specifically is that they mixed a few things. One of the things they mixed is Guts' sword on how it would be wielded.
Yeah.
It's so heavy. And they just applied it to Zweihander because big sword means heavy, right?
Yeah, and
not really.
Dark Souls is just like, it's unabashedly a fan of the Berserk universe, which is why when you go through Elden Ring, Berserk's sword is there as one of the great swords that, you know, does the whole swinging thingy-majiggy similar to the Zweihander in Dark Souls 1 and 3.
Oh yeah.
So
FromSoft is unabashedly anime.
Yeah. Which is, like, that's fine. Like, I'm fine with them, like, having that kind of inspiration and such like that. It's just...
I mean, you've played Armored Core 6, right?
Yeah, no, I'm still going through it. I've only just finished Chapter 2. You've been there.
Very anime.
You've been there
It's
every
very
time I've gone through, like... Oh, let's be real. Like, Armored Core could be more anime, though. Right?
Oh, no, I won't spoil. It is anime as fuck.
I'm thinking of, like, Gundam and Gurren Lagann. No, it fucking doesn't. You.
Oh yes, it does.
No,
you will see.
Have you seen Gurren Lagann, like, in recent memory?
It doesn't get to Gurren Lagann levels, but it gets to Gundam levels easily.
Okay, yeah, but that's because Gundam had a spout during, like, Iron Blood Orphans to be ultra realistic and not just go with the fucking Lanouche revolution kind of realism, but like war tactics revolution, like realism and shit. I'm talking like old ass time when they were like, ah yes, here's a kid pilot and with no experience is doing better than all the other mechs because he's in the cool one. Meanwhile, like,
it doesn't get that.
Mission, what was it, 3 or 4? It's like, ah, yes, this enemy is got a kid in an experimental AC unit. Beat his ass.
Yeah, he was meant to be Gun 13, if you remember.
He was meant to be? Oh.
Yeah, he was delivering the AC to the Red Guns. And the Red Guns had recently lost a member, and that member was Gun 13.
No, but he didn't even have a call sign. Like, the student didn't have one, so he wasn't.
He was gonna get Gun 13. Or if not, he was just transporting the AC to what was going to be the Gun 13.
Yeah.
Either or.
POV, you're a Defang student pilot.
Yes.
Well, knowing my, like, I'm kind of, like, I'm understanding, like, it's doing the same thing as Dark Souls, where it's like, I'm understanding the big things, but one thing I do like about Armored Core as opposed to Dark Souls, like especially Dark Souls 1 or 3, is you still have like the whole, oh, there was a much bigger thing that happened earlier, like in this case the fires of what's the like of Ibris or whatever, like that's like From Software, like bread and butter, where they're like, oh, something really big fucking happened. You would have been amazed if you were there, but you weren't there, so we're not doing that. I'm kind of annoyed when From Software does that. I'm just sort of like, no, let me experience that. You're a fucking video game. What do you mean I can't experience, like, probably the age of dragons or all this kind of nonsense? You have to always... It's like 28 Days Later, where you're playing as, what's-a-mahoozy, is he Irish or is he Welsh? Irish. You're playing the Irish actor, and he's like waking up in the hospital 28 days after the infection. He's just like, it's just that kind of feel every time I go through the From Software game. It's like, I want to kind of experience the shit earlier, please.
Oh yeah, I think it's a good. It's not a new way, but it's a kind of a good way to world build. You're just thrown into it, and you have to figure it out.
It's a way to do it. I don't know how I feel about it being like. I feel like it's a like the advantage of it is you make it makes it so then that way people who do want to do the world building and such like that, they can do the digging and such, and they feel rewarded for it. But those who are, for example, want to read a book, like they want to have the story as the progression and such like that, I don't know if it suits that kind of viewer like myself all that much. Like,
yeah,
I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not a fan of like digging up skeletons and being able to be like, ah, yes, because of this fusing of the bones here, we can tell that this society had hospitals because they would have had an abundance of resources and all these things to allow them to heal and fuse the bones, which means they are an advanced civilization, technically. Did I mix Gundam with Code Geass? No. What I was saying is that Gundam Ironblood Orphans took on a little bit of a realistic sort of take about the whole mecha fighting and such like that, but they didn't go down the route of Code Geass with the realism of mecha fighting, where it was a bit like a chessboard and such like that. It was more of an actual, like, you know, gritty, pulling inch by inch World War I kind of nonsense stratagems, not, oh hey, guerrilla warfare, I am playing you like a chessboard kind of thing, and then you just got random developments here and there. Well, for what it's worth, you've chosen a fine sanctuary. The Exarch can throw up a barrier if the Sin Eaters come knocking, so it's a damn sight safer in here than it is out there. Safer and more civilized, too. Thanks to us in the mean, we work together to procure materials and resources and craft the goods which make city life possible. This is the place to visit if you need a coat mended or a kettle forged. Just don't go thinking it'll be handed to you on a plate like those Elormum layabouts here in the Crystallum. We work for a living. Though I see you're no stranger to honest labor. You don't have that whiff of indolence about you like some folk I've met. Still, I can't quite pin down your profession. Where is it you're from? I'm with the same place as Exarchs. Well then, I'll work twice as hard to make you feel welcomed. Our city wouldn't even exist if it weren't for him, and any friend of his is a friend of ours. So, I've not caught up into Gundam. Like, I know the popularity of Gundam, but even, like, the Witches of Mercury, I have not gone into. I only know, like, bits and pieces. And every time I think about going into Gundam, I can't accept just going into the current season of Gundam. I want to go to, like, sort of the quote-unquote, like, start, binge through the main like, line. I don't want to deal with, like, you know, oh, here's some alternative things. It's why I haven't gotten into Fate after Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero. I want a clean timeline, people. A past, a present, and a future. None of this everything is canon bullshit like Sonic. They say his grand magic summoned the crystal tower into existence and pulled the entire thing out of the air. It wasn't long before droves of refugees began congregating around its base, desperate for shelter after losing their homes to the flood. And that's how the Crystarium began. At the Exarch's invitation, buildings started going up, and with the help of some curious relics brought forth from the tower, the place gradually expanded into the thriving metropolis you see today. The city stood here for decades now, yet the eldest among us swears the Exarch looks exactly the same as he did back then. He is indeed a man of many mysteries, but for all his secrecy, he has never let us down. So, if he, and you, wish to remain silent about your shared homeland, then the folks here will respect your wishes for privacy. I am, however, more than a little curious to see any crafting talent you might be hiding. If you've ought to contribute on that front, be sure to come back and visit once you've had a chance to settle in. Just ask for Catalyst, and I'll find you a niche here in the Crystalline Mean. You can help us keep the cogs of the city greased and running. Someone suggests TLOZ? The fuck is TLOZ?
Legend of Zelda?
Oh. No, that one they kind of like I've watched, what's the name of the bisexual energy dude with the Harry Potter sunglasses and the long, like, not super long hair, but like just enough to like do like a little like medium length, and he had a mustache. He was on Polygon and he explained the Legend of Zelda timeline and how it was like, you know, the beginning was technically like the very first game of Legend, or no, the first in the chronological order is Skyward Sword, I want to say, because at the end of that you had the curse of like the repeating fights between Calamity and the hero of Hyrule, and then the last game was the Breath of the Wild, with the sequel followed up being Tears of the Kingdom. Like, that one's easy. Like, that one's fine. They gave you they gave you, like, you know, a beginning and an end, and they were just like, you do whatever the fuck you want in the middle, that's not important. And I'm like, cool, excellent. Where am I going? Oh wait, wrong way. I'm gonna go this way.
Go suck a lemon.
You go suck a lemon. Dun, dun, dun. My VTuber is doing Biggie's knees and it sparks great joy. Excellent work, Sashera. Oh, I can... Probably best that I attune to these when I find them. So many of them, goddamn. Hi, Geralt. Welcome to the stream. I'm doing ShadowBringers! My taskbar isn't locked either, and I am doing Gunbreaker, despite the fact... Hang on a second. Gunbreaker. No, I didn't lock the toolbar. Look at it! The toolbar is not locked. It's unlocked. And the way I do it is I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Is a cutie.
How the fuck? Why am I not? Hang on. Oh, that's bullshit. It's right there. Wait.
Jesus Christ, how horrifying.
Yep. And then I just like bring the mouse down to click for anything that's in like the control or the alt section. How's it going? Oh my god, Jack. Okay, hang on. Before I read further, I saw the 3 different timelines. You're talking about Legend of Zelda and how, technically speaking, there was 3 different timelines that go off because of Ocarina of Time. There's the past, where Ganondorf, where nothing was changed. The future, where Ganondorf succeeded. And then there's a 3rd timeline where Link, using what he knows about the past and the future, defeats Ganondorf. Am I correct? The child one, where Kid Link warns the king and imprisons Ganondorf before he gains power. The adult timeline, where Link wins and Zelda sends him home. but Ganondorf revives and the hero is nowhere around to save the time, so the king floods Hyrule. Wait, what? Oh, either by Ganondorf winning, getting sealed, young Link locking them away, or adult Link winning. Yeah, so 3. That was basically what I had. I totally understood what happened there. And then you've got a thingy-madoogies. Alrighty. Now, are they gonna let me just jump? No, don't look at my cake.
Day, be so fine.
Why is it doing that?
Deadpool. Morning.
It did it again, where the tail is like a weird-ass, texture. I need to fix that. It's doing it for some reason. Ah! Look at my schnoz. Just... God. Fine, I'm gonna navigate this thing normally. Who's the plushie beside me? Oh, that's Avalon. Avalon is like they're just a squishy mellow, and they helped me on like my squat posture, and they are an expert in HEMA shit.
I'm not an expert.
Okay, well they know more HEMA shit than me then. So. Yunk. Yunk. Just navigating this place as best as I can. It's a lot of blues.
Oh, it's crystal. It's not crystal meth.
But it's crystal. Nyom. Oh, hey, it's another, Hrothgar.
Yeah. This is a nice city. It's just a shame that most of the player base does not like it.
Aw. It was the intention that it would be, like, a little more filled up with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's, like, so big and, you know.
Okay. Was this, like, sort of an end place for ShadowBringers as well? Like, would people...
Kind of.
New to the city, friend. The spinning head and wide eyes gives you away. Welcome. My name is Bragi, and I'm the master of these markets. They gave the district another official title, but I'm not in the habit of using it. Too florid by half. In any case, our merchants stock a range of equipments for vias, such as yourself, so finding something in your size shouldn't be a problem. I'm actually a Vieira. Must be a dialect I'm not familiar with. Let's see if we get that straightened out. See those two in front of us? The shorter one is a Humi. The taller one is an elf. The sturdy individual over there is a Galgent. The one with the horns is a Drahan. Or Dran. And then you have the large scaly chaps with long tails and a knack for raising livestock. Those would be the Zun. Interesting. Kiaru, I get what you're saying. It's like going through Doan and learning about how there's like all this like long ass history about the Atreides house and like some of the different like assassins' names and the crazy traditions on the planet Dune. And your main protagonist, the person that turns out to be a messiah to the people due to religious machinations being done by the Empire, is Paul. It's no joke. Also, oh my gosh, hang on. You need to change that image.
Go suck a lemon.
He needs to change the image. Or actually, no, hang on a second. Hang on, I can change it. Discord.
He left.
No, I pushed him out because I noticed, like, he didn't say anything, but I saw the thing and I was just sort of like, okay, that's a bit much. Hang on. I'll move him shortly. Fugi reactive. I just need to grab. All right, log in, and then all right, sources. Hide the group. Drag you back in. Oh, I gotta log in again, knowingly enough. Ding. Authorize. It was not as, it was Booba. Alright, hang on. Alright. Chosen image. I'm pretty, there must have something. One moment. Discord Fugi React images, code, scribbly. No. Alright, Savage Darg. No, I don't want to. Okay, Twitter Savage Darg. There we go. And then purged. Nah, it's not purged. Not yet. Just give me a second. I will have this sorted out in no timos. Boobs. Boobs. Dick. Boobs. Wait. Maybe. Actually. Dink. Donk. Just in case.
And don't worry about it,
You already did it. Oh, you did a swap? Hey, yep, nope, that works. Excellent, that's a good one. Bam.
I am actually, eventually I'll just end up having a permanent fucking picture on there. Because I'm gonna be getting, I'm actually working on getting a PNG tuber done.
Nice! Awesome!
Yeah.
Nice work. Return them or be dropped. I prefer the beach booba. Can I have it back? No, you can't have it back. You can check out Savage Durg's Twitter for the beach booba, which will no doubt be in Savage Durg. Hopefully I'm writing that correctly.
So, that was what the work in progress of it looked like before, but there's a bit of changes that I'm having done.
Oh, you did it as a direct message. Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's similar
so
to.
What it looked like before.
It's similar to Code the Yoshi's sort of thing. Are you familiar with Code the Yoshi?
Yes. Well, of course I am.
Of course. Some people might not. It's just a thing.
You say it as if I'm not friends with Code.
I honestly have forgotten who's friends with who.
Of course I am. He's me.
Yeah, no, honestly, I've communicated with peeps that are in Australia. They're like, no, I know this American peep, and I was just like, wait, what? And then I talked to American peeps, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I know this Australian peep, and I'm actual friends with them, and I was just like, god damn it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the main thing is just some changes with the size, and then I'm switching it to be where he's wearing a tank top.
Yep.
Because fuck it.
Alrighty. Oh, I got a head thing.
So at the moment, it's just waiting.
Alrighty then. Alright. Which is apparently not the name you know them by. Boop. Now I'm curious to know which far-flung region you hail from. Ah, the same as the Exarch, eh? Well, that explains it. You don't get much further flung than that. We've had a few of you lot pass through in recent years, and despite their obvious learning, they floundered over the simplest things. But not to worry. Should you find yourself confused by the local language or customs, I'll be here to answer your questions. Your exchange with Brog has taught you about the peoples of the First. And there you are. Hello. So yeah, I don't know if you know, but ShadowBringers has no dungeons for the first 20 missions.
Yeah, you don't get one until you hit
71 or 17.
Yep. So, and at some point I need to do a improvement on Gunbreaker. There we are. Alright, so that's the... And then there's another one down there. Running around grabbing all the different aetherites. Wandering Stairs is their pub.
Oh, no, yeah, 71, because I don't know why I said 81. That's...
No, you said 71. I didn't hear 80.
No, I said 81.
Oh.
I was like, wait a minute. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, that's not right.
Mm.
That would be fucking Endwalker.
Yeah, no. Because, like, I did it before I did the stream, but because I didn't want to miss out on levels up while going through the main campaign, and especially if I was playing my Dark Knight or the Warrior, I purchased the Endwalker expansion before I've even reached it.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, because
then once you get there, you can just start doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I still need to finish up ShadowBringers on this character because I'm in patch content from what I remember.
Oh, okay, all right.
So, I'd have to double check, but I don't remember what patch I'm actually in.
They definitely they did a split of the very last patch into part 1 and 2 in the Wikia. Because I think they had it where it was like you had a trial in one and then a dungeon in another. Oh no, you had a raid in one and a dungeon in another.
Oh. I'm in the one called I'm in 5.4, so I'm at the second last dungeon, technically, for host shit.
Alrighty then. Hey Grant, how long are you gonna be up? What time is... Oh. It's 9 o'clock. Is your model a VRM or a VSF avatar? It's a VC face avatar, but I've got like a VRM variant, and I have the Blender file to be able to do all the extracts and all that kind of such. So yeah. I'm just trying to grab as many of the aetherites as I can while I'm Cabinet of Curiosities, the Crystal Mean. Alright, so I grabbed the 3 there, then I grabbed the thing that was up here. Oh, I didn't grab the Rookery.
Okay, so I'm fully set up for that.
So I need to grab the Rookery and then... which is this way.
That one's good, that one's good. That one has full 530.
Spent 2 days doing it, staying up way too late. I'm glad that this is a expansion that, you know, is going to... It's already, like, grabbing a little bit of my interest and such. I've not done a lot of criticism on it yet. Like, I'm not on a rant about it, so it's definitely hitting onto... It's moving away from grand company politics and shit. I don't know why. I was on, like, a real...
I will definitely say for me at least, in terms of the expansions, I've... Like, if I had to rate them best to worst, in my opinion... I would personally say Endwalker, Shadowbringers, Heaven's Wards, Stormblood, and then A Realm Reborn for the stories, personally. Because A Realm Reborn is just... It takes so fucking long and it gets so boring.
And they're still, like, cutting content here and there, aren't they? So.
Yeah, there's still so much that you have to do, even with all the shit they've done. Make it not as bad.
Yep.
And then, of course, Stormblood was kinda... in terms of story.
It definitely felt it. Like, I talked about it with Velk previously, but,
Yeah, it's just when I compare... Like, for me, it's like when I compare Stormblood to Heaven's Ward, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker... Yeah, they're not as good. It's not as good.
I told you it was a slug.
Yeah, because the thing that got me was how it felt really long to get through, like, because it started with, like, oh, there's 2 fronts you have to do your resistance network on, and I'm like, oh, goodness, this is going to take a bit, especially when they had you going through Doma, like, that one felt long, and then they took you all the way back to Albania, or whatever it was called, and that one was fast. I was very confused by that whiplash of, oh, Doma being an extra long one where it felt like, oh, I should really do a little more fighting for Doma one. And then you go through Gear Albania and it's just sort of like whapa, and the crown prince kills himself, and you're just sort of like, what? That's it?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, for me, it's like, I've heard a lot of shit about Endwalker recently, but I'm like, I don't think it's really as bad as people say it is. Like, the patch content hasn't been, well, like the patch story hasn't been as good as like the base, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because
when
the last 10 years, Final Fantasy has been a sleeper hit. It's been, if you decided to go into it, you were doing well, especially with how well ShadowBringers was doing, and then WoW fucked up, and so everyone was like, we got to try something else, and so everyone was going through Heaven's Ward and such. You had a mixture of people, learning the ropes on A Realm Reborn, and some people even maybe making friends on people who were in the middle of ShadowBringers, helping people out in Heaven's Ward. So then when Stormblood goes through, they might blitz through that because as they just wanted to get to their friends who's at ShadowBringers quicker, and then they go through ShadowBringers. So you have this mixture of community and this sort of everyone on the same sort of page without communication, similar to like the greater like Twitter sphere having the same adventure on Elden Ring. Like you could basically almost like you could see on the trending tags where everyone else was in in Elden Ring, where it was like, oh yeah, we're here, we're annoyed by this many-armed person. Oh, we're here, we're annoyed by the blade of Mikola, and then we're here, where we're having our opinions about the ending.
Yeah, you can see the curve, basically.
Yeah, which is cookie for furry cures, which I think is a rare thing to see in video games, especially single players, whereas with multiplayers, it's a little more often where you'll see where everyone is on the curve, because, deployment.
Mm-hmm. Which, I feel like part of the thing with the whole Endwalker stuff is that with the base story for Endwalker, they were wrapping up a story arc that's been going since A Realm Reborn. But now, there isn't, it's kind of just like we're at an in-between.
Oh, yeah.
Moment with the patch content.
Yeah.
Basically.
This is
where they're setting up for the next, where they're basically just getting things started with the next story arc that they're gonna do. So, yeah, there's all that stuff.
I wonder if they intended to go that far.
With what, Endwalker?
No, because Final Fantasy did Final Fantasy XI, which was a massive online multiplayer game as well. But obviously that's not gotten any expansions or something, in case you end.
Yeah.
So like they did their conclusion, and then Final Fantasy 14, version 1.0 didn't do too well. They did a conclusion. It was a huge financial ruin for the company. They apologized to their shareholders, and then they brought in Yoshi P, grind and heavy workload afterwards. They release A Realm Reborn. It's really big. They do Heaven's Ward to try to keep people interested. It was really big, and they continued on. Then they did Stormblood, ShadowBringers, Endwalker. I'm wondering, like, before Yoshi P did like a galvanization of the thing, was there perhaps like a intention of concluding it, like before the most recent
Final Fantasy 14?
Yeah,
I think that. So I joined at the end of Heaven's Ward, beginning of Stormblood. And you can definitely notice, and I was actually going to point to, on the Gunbreaker, you can definitely also notice that the shift in how the quests are from level 60, 70, 80, and so on. There's definitely a change over time in the development, and you can definitely tell that the story has gone on for a little bit too long in some aspects.
Yeah.
ShadowBringers kind of diverts and tackles a different subject, and some of them are kind of heavy. Endwalker also does that, but it puts a cap on it, and it just finalizes the whole, cycle.
Yeah.
The new expansion is just going to go into back to regular adventure life, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone was wanting after Endwalker as well. cookie for Bookie, because as we go further down, like most stories or franchises have a issue where if you keep raising the stakes, there might be a point where you're just jumping a shark and you're not going to, have people invested in whatever story you try and do afterwards because you might have raised the stakes too far previously and they're not equal to today.
Yeah.
So, kind of what Marvel is going through.
So the original one before Realm Reborn, I kind of played it for a while. It played very different from most Final Fantasies. It was like cutscene after cutscene after cutscene. It was very kind of cinematic-esque. The controls were very different from what people are used to.
Yeah.
You know the lock-on in this game?
No.
If you ever get the chance to target something, just press numpad 5.
Okay.
That's how people work in controllers. That was the default targeting method before Realm Reborn. There was no other way to do it.
Oh, so you couldn't do like keyboard, you couldn't use a mouse to target.
Yeah. It was that jank.
Oh.
So when it launched, it didn't learn from a lot of the lessons that most MMOs put out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the major reasons why it flopped. The story was alright. Wasn't anything,
It's a Final Fantasy story. Like it's like we've gone through it like 14 times, or 14 plus times technically speaking. There are like some tropes that Final Fantasy does, especially, and even within the JRPG that Western audiences would have just sort of, shrugged at, of just like, oh, like another, we fight a god.
Oddly enough, in the original one, there was no god to fight.
Really? What about the?
Yeah, it was just against the Garleans.
Ah, I thought, didn't you fight primals?
Yeah.
The primals are...
The conclusion... Okay, yeah, but the conclusion, the bigger bad, was actually just a human.
Okay. Okay, I gotta put on my story mode because they gave me a children's book for the thingy-majiggy.
It's a good book.
100 years ago, or near enough not to matter, villains known as Warriors of Light slew the Shadowkeeper, the Steward of Darkness. In the wake of this tainted deed, light began to pour into the world as if from unseen cracks. It pooled and swelled without cease, until the day an enormous blinding wave rose up and swept across our star. We call this calamity the Flood of Light. Everything it touched was leached of life and vigor, leaving naught behind but a luminous wasteland. I love the little page turning sound. Yet just when it seemed that all would be lost, a savior appeared before us. The Oracle of Light, she stood twixt us and approaching doom, and by her power did she slay the flood. Thus was Norvrant. Thank you. Thus was Norvrant, and Norvrant alone spared the fate of erasure.
Yeah, it's a weird name for that area.
Just a little bit.
To say the least.
Tragedy would, however, arrive in another form. From the blasted emptiness descended horrors of strange and terrible aspects to bedevil the few folk who survived. These Sin Eaters were light incarnate, and their fulgent presence stole the night from the Norvrant sky. Even now, they circle the remaining bastions of civilization, ever on the hunt for us, hungering for our flesh.
I just realized because I'm doing roulette and I'm like, oh hey, we have 2 maiming classes in this trial.
and thus did the world begin what it is. Should you ever wish to hear the tale again, I'd be glad to retell it for you. Or if you would rather I speak of other matters, that too would be my pleasure. I should be glad of the company. Your exchange with Warren has taught you about the Flood of Light. Okay. They talked about Warriors of Light in there, and so... Oh, no, Warriors... Did he say...
Yeah, Warriors of Light.
Yeah, he said Warriors of
As
Light.
the villains.
Yeah, he said they were the villains, and because of that, there was like a blinding light and such. I'm a pundit, and I'm gonna put my prediction that that's where our fellers came from, is this particular shard, the first shard.
Oh yeah, the ones back in that you saw?
Yeah. You're literally spoiled of that in like the first few seconds of this expansion.
Yeah, because they showed like the different shards of thingamadiggies, and they mentioned the guys in the... Was it a Realm Reborn, or was it Heaven's Ward patch? Heaven's Ward patch, yeah. Because they showed them off there, and it was like, oh yeah, we did everything.
I remember there was the patch content where you fought them.
Betrays you.
Yeah. Alright. Back to... Also, why is this not better gear? Oh, it's probably the Great Axe that's doing it.
Yeah, technically, like the highest item level you can be at that point would be 400.
Yep. Hello.
And that's with all augmented Skaven.
Well, how did you fare?
Level 70.
Did my colleagues help you form a clearer picture of this land and its people? Yes, it seems you were treated to a most thorough introduction. I understand it was something of a chore, but 'twas necessary that you grasp these things before we proceed. As for the Crystal Tower's origin, you may have noted that details were sparse. The structure is, in fact, the self-same one you know from the source, transported to the first in its entirety. It was my first attempt at breaching the boundaries between worlds, something of a trial run for your eventual crossing. And although I do not know which era I tore it from, I do know that at its arrival served to set this wheel of fate in motion. Nice.
Oof. Rip that healer.
Let's see, so... Polished oak chest with lavish filigree that suggests a valuable piece of attire lies within. Oh, this is only for the chest, Jesus. Alright, hopefully, is it gonna say Dark Knight, or is it gonna say...
Basically,
Fending, awesome.
When you open those chests, it goes for whatever class you open it on.
I know that. I was just curious whether it was going to be as in like only for the Dark Knight, or if it was going to be fending.
Oh, yeah. From what I remember, they don't have that kind of thing where it's specifically one class for that kind of thing.
Yep.
I've never seen
370. And then this is 290, so I'm going to use this. There we go. Alrighty then. I am going to leave it here because as it's getting close to 9:30 for me. I need to find where I need to find the quote-unquote like camp, because otherwise I'm gonna be absolutely lost in... Let me see if I can see where it is. Unless it doesn't have a camp. Let's see, hunt board, trader. Don't forget the squats. I won't forget the squats. So, I gotta do 20,
Go
I
suck a
believe.
lemon.
You go suck a lemon. Alright, we need to have a look at who we are gonna go and raid. There probably is nowhere for me to sleep. Alright, let's see. Mega
there is.
looks to be done. So, let's see. Diffuse. How's... Let's see. Oh, hang on. I haven't bumped into them before. Gosh, it's been a while. Unless... Actually, let me refresh and see what happens. Thanks to the stream.
Oh yeah, Grant. The inn is over by the pendants area.
Oh, thank you. That's
Yeah.
actually really helpful. Alrighty,
And then it's just through here.
Awesome. Cool. Going through that slowly. Let's see. Dopos, here's... Think.
See this boy? The guy who should be here.
He's not.
Maybe?
I don't...
Oh, wait, yeah, yeah, you have to.
Okay.
I forgot. He's shown through story.
Ah, okay.
So
Alright.
he's not unlocked yet.
I'll just...
whatever.
I'll just exit out of the game then. Alright, okay, I haven't raided into them, but in a very, very long time. But we're gonna go raid into the Alcaris. Hang on. Yes, she's like someone I followed like a really long time ago. They do a lot of not Lord of the Rings, sorry, the Legend of Zelda streams, and looks like they're now onto Tears of the Kingdom. So we're gonna go raid into there, and it's just gonna be our classic Himbo raid message for this one. Himbo raid, show us your cutest guys, gals, and non-binary pals, or prepare to get swole. So if you don't have if you're not subscribed, you can't use the emotes, but you're welcome to use whatever other kinds of emotes you wish. And otherwise, Savage, when's the next time? Hang on a sec. There's stuff in the way. Savage, when is the next time that people might be able to see you stream?
Not sure yet.
Alrighty then. Avalon, I don't think you're a streamer at all, are you?
No.
Alrighty then. Well, I will get a schedule out for the next time I stream. There's not going to be any more, there's not going to be any more art streams for the foreseeable future. I'm going to take a hiatus on that because I want to train myself up a little bit more before I go back into that sort of stuff. So I'm maybe going to return to Sunday morning streams next week. Who knows? But otherwise, I want to say thank you everyone who's been here tonight. I really appreciate it. And we'll go get ready to raid into Alcaris, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.